Hello and welcome back to the only show that breaks down, cracks up, skews, and reviews each week's DC Comics. I'm either a robot, a clone, or a brainwashed Robin, Eric Shea.
And I'm Jim Warner.
And this is the Weird Science DC Comics Podcast, episode number 536.
I feel bad. I'm just plain old Jim Warner.
You always are.
I'm not. That's what I think.
Plain Jane Jim Warner.
You are not very nice to me. I'm going to raise my levels here, and I mean my enthusiasm, Eric. I just realized that I didn't do something before we started that I promised you I always would. Oh, my goodness. Here we are. It's going to be a quick show. I told Eric probably around between 15 minutes and 25. Eric always thinks I jinx things. Then he thinks, I love the idea that you actually think that I set it up by telling you this is going to be quick, and then I end up making it longer than it should be. Why would I want to look wrong, Eric? You know me. I don't like to look wrong. I just end up doing it all the time. But here we are. We only have 3 books. We only have 3 books for the main show here. I'm not going to say they're the biggest books of the week, but if you want to hear more Weird Science talk, and who wouldn't, Eric? We have our Patreon Spotlight, our badass Patreon Spotlight. I shrugged my
shoulders. I don't know why. Who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't? Who knows? The badass Patreon Spotlight show we do every Thursday night. The 2 books from that week picked by the badasses of the Get Fresh crew. I almost said the Fresh Cup crew, like wrong turn. Turned in the wrong turn. The Get Fresh crew, boop, boop. And it's a poll that goes up for that level on our Patreon. They get to pick the books. And this week they ended up, I don't know, it was a surprise because you actually thought they would pick Batman. But at Batman 147, but Birds of Prey, number 9, the book that seemed to be everybody's darling until I saw what limited sales numbers we can get and also read the book. Because that book is hot garbage, Eric. I don't know if you know that. It's not great, but you can hear us talk about the Batmans, and that was about an hour long, and then about 45 minutes on the Birds of Prey. So I kind of think those 2 books might be longer than these 3 are, because this is only going to be 25 minutes. Now, all in all, too, if you go over to our Patreon at patreon.com/weirdscience, you get a ton of other shows. And again, I know that people seem to be down on the big 2, or even just down each week on whatever. You can go over and get a ton of shows, including our new indie show that is exclusive to the Patreon, and also Marvel stuff, manga, other things, maybe some random guy talking on the mic that I met down in an alley named Eric. I don't know, Eric, but you get a lot of stuff there. It's you. But before we then go on, let me tell you also that you can find us on our website, WeirdScienceDCComics.com, also our YouTube page, Weird Science Comics, and over at Twitter, at Weird Science DC. Eric, I'm proud to say, I was just about to lie. I was going to say I didn't get in a fight with anybody this week, but I did. I did.
I know you did. No matter what happens.
It was a Marvel thing that I got in a fight with.
Even if it's something you don't care about, you're like, I need to fucking, throw some hands via the internet right now. Let's see what people are talking about.
It'd be funny. I go undercover. I'm so desperate. I have a burner account that starts the fight, and then I swoop in. Hey, that'd be pretty cool. I'm saying that I swoop in.
No, just keep the burner account.
Eric Shea. And then somebody responds, and then I attack.
Yep.
I reeled him in. I did. And then I find out it was you. You're a self-hating comic book fan, Eric. But here we are. And again, we're going to try to have some fun with these books. I like one. I don't know how you're gonna think, but with all that, I don't even know what I'm saying now. See, this is what you said about me trying to extend it.
I know.
Hey, everybody, guess what I ate for breakfast today? Nothing, Eric, because I woke up late. I was real tired. Is that like a knock, knock, who's there? Oh, man, it sucks. The guy can't hear. See, these are the non-jokes, Eric. But with all of this, I'm starting to feel weird. You like that? I'm starting to feel a little odd. But we're going to give a shout out to the Get Fresh crew, and specifically the badasses of the Get Fresh crew. With the badass roll call. I thought I had it all together again.
I know you didn't.
I kind of did know as well. I mean, it's kind of the thing. It'd be insane not to realize. Don't mention it, Eric. D-Man 3001, David Fink, Jack Halsey, Nick Rust, Trevitt, Wakazashi's Gray, that is a gray AI over in Japan. Dan Smith, Eric K, JLG, Mimsy, the Mark Claire Show, The Annihilator, Ted Probst. I love Punchline. Some Punchline coming up in that big news.
Sure is.
In the Old West. Stork,
Gotham City Sirens.
Michael S, Cam, Matt Razor, Niels T-Wart, Stephen Baum, Jason Kobe, Sue42 to you and me, Mike, Ken Halleck, Comic Boom Rocky, Rut Gut Rudy. I hate that guy. Mark Shager, Bill Abir, Ruben, Carlos, No Wolf, Marv, Matthew Rapier had some pretty cool tweets this week. Luke Hollywood, he might be drunk. I don't know. Simon, Luis, Man Ship, Andrew Belfast, Swanee, Anthony G, Josh Vermillion, Batman Beyond, Mark, Brandy, Brandon Murray up there in Canada, Buffalo, Canada, and doxing his ass in Minnesota. It's Double A Run. Shout out to the all-time greats Reginald Drinkwater and Rob Lewis. I knew you thought I almost forgot his name, Eric. I almost said Reggie again. Because I said Reginald, I almost said Reggie again.
The thing is, you pointing it out lets me know that you did almost forget.
I almost said Reggie again.
Because obviously I knew you almost forgot, but you pointing it out, you just let everybody know.
No, that was my cadence. That's what I was doing. Cadence. Wasn't that the one girl started Full House?
Cadence.
Cadence there. But we're going to get right to it because we only have 3 books. We have a mail. We have a cool mail from Jeremy. But I'm now on the clock because I told you we were only going to last like 25 minutes, which is about 24 minutes than usual. Oh, Eric, you make me laugh. You do. But we're going to go up to these books and away we go.
Burn it down, does it even matter anymore? Burn it down, it doesn't matter anymore. There's not much more to say. They only see me as a villain anyway. A dream was crushed dead out in space tonight. I buried it along with my bitch wife. Sent candle away, had a killing spree. I guess it never was meant to be. Burn it down, does it even matter anymore? Burn it down, it doesn't matter anymore. There's not much more to say. They only see me as a villain anyway. What happens to the man who gets what he wants? What happens when all your dreams come true? I guess I found out today, but just this once. 'Cause now here's what I'm gonna do. Burn it down, doesn't matter anymore. Burn it down, it doesn't matter anymore. There's not much more to say. They only see me as a villain anyway. Why fight it anymore? What could they say? They only see me as a villain anyway.
Are you there, Eric? I'm crying here. It's so emotional.
She said it all.
That was Zod, Eric, saying it. What are you talking about? That is a first-person song. Oh, my goodness.
It's a first-person song, but as soon as you hear the bitch wife verse, oh, yeah, Jim Warner wrote this.
See, you have to have the hook. As they say, you need a signature hook, and that is it. That or pooping your pants. But that wouldn't fit here, and that would, quite frankly, be disrespectful, Eric, if you ask me. But here we are for the first section of books. Of course, that was a Zod song, so we're not starting with that.
Obviously.
But I don't have a Shazam song, because I don't know what the hell the book's doing.
Because you're too busy writing pooping pants songs.
Poopy pants songs come in. I mean, here's the thing. The mind racking that I do to do these DC songs, I'm telling you, it's like I'm down in the lab, right, doing this thing. Then you say, oh, make me a poopy pants song. I'm like, okay, I have 7 done already. I get this like 2 seconds. They're done, Eric. They write themselves. That's the greatest. That and, some sus other things going on. But here we are. Because I think that when I do the comic book stuff, I hold it to a higher standard, Eric. It has to make sense. It has to deal with the thing. And like the idea of having what sounds like Rosé from Blackpink sing in the first person as Zod. That makes sense to me. because they're both hot, Eric, because they're burned up, right? You know what I'm saying. But
is Rosé burned up?
She's hot. She is not. She's hot though. She's hot on the charts. Maybe. I like Rosé. That is my gal. But here we are, and as we said, we have three books. My girl, she's like almost 30 now, Eric. It's not like that
doesn't make you less of a simp, though.
Though I do like New Jeans too, but they're having some problems with their management. But besides that, we have these books. Speaking of problems with management, we have the Shazam book, and you ended up where Mark Waid not got kicked off, him and Dan Mora. They left the book because they're doing bigger and better things, coming up with Absolute Power, supposedly even a Justice League book, and it got handed off probably to, I'm not going to say the writer themselves are the best writer, but it makes sense to have Josie Campbell because she ended up doing a bunch of stuff with Mary Marvel, so it's not that much of a leap. But I don't know. I don't know that this book has any footing on what's going on, even though it continues the story, and I hope that it does get the chance. I don't know. I don't think this one's long for the world. I looked, and it's not, as far as the sales you can see, it's not selling very well, and I think that a lot of people maybe didn't, like, it's me and you. We didn't love what Mark Waid and Dan Moore were doing. It was kind of uneven as well. But you keep going because it's that story. But when you get that little chance of, okay, creative team change, I think a lot of people might have dropped it. You would have kept going, though, because
definitely.
You were loyal. I probably would have dropped it at that point. Not even just because of Josie
even thinking
Campbell,
about the idea, though, that the sales are dropping a bit. I'm sure the sales are dropping a bit too for everybody who was boycotting Mark Waid when he was still on this book, and then a new writer came on. You and I debated the idea whether people would come back or not, and the idea is, they're probably not going to come back.
And that's what I'm saying. And then there's some people who, even if they don't have a problem with Mark Waid, the book really wasn't hitting as good as some other books. So you kind of were like, well, it's like you with World's Finest back in the New 52, where each time you're like, well, I think it, but if they would have just had like a complete change or something, though, you're wacky. But a lot of people look for things where, you know what, I wasn't really loving it as it was. I don't know if I want to reboot and drop. So I think there are a lot of things, stacked up against it, including maybe the play of it not really feeling, like we said, it's got its footing yet and not feeling big in a book that we were really hoping would solve a lot of problems. This is a weird transitional
story arc, which I'm not even sure that Josie Campbell understood what Mark Waid was doing before he left and picking up where the pieces where he left off. So I'm going to put this as a transitional story. I don't know how long it is, if it's 3 issues or whatnot, but once we get done this whole thing, maybe it can pick back up. I am just worried about the idea of continuing on all the goofiness that Mark Waid was doing on top of trying to match that and the energy through what Josie Campbell did with the next champion of Shazam.
Yeah, and again, we're going towards Absolute
the new champion
Power.
Of Shazam.
Yeah, we're going to Absolute Power and things. And what's weird about Shazam, usually I would say, I know that it's not because the solicits have been out, but usually go, okay, if it's going to be canceled, it'll get canceled at 12. You have 2 trades. Shazam's weird. I think even the last one was like 16. It was a weird number. So I don't
think it was
know.
14.
Yeah, but it was weird, right? It wasn't the normal deal. So I don't know. This seems like a book that they're going to give Josie Campbell a little bit of time, but I don't know how long. And maybe after Absolute Power, you might see this book kind of fade away and disappear. We'll see. Again, you love Shazam. I like talking about Shazam to you. I just hope that it kind of hits. But give us the credits and we'll jump into it.
Shazam! Number 11, written by Josie Campbell with art by Emmanuel Lupacino, Trish Mulvihill, and Troy Pateri. And we're continuing on the idea of it's being moving day, because that's what our story is called, but that's one of those things I'm not sure that Josie Campbell understood, because even the idea of moving week, moving day, they never moved. At one point, Mark Waid's like, hey, we're going to move into this big new house, but it all relies on the idea of selling our old house. Oh no, Black Adam and the Captain done destroyed our old house. Hey, Zeus, can you build our new house back? Yes, I did. I even made it a little bit bigger. Hey, you know what, guys? We're not going to move. So this whole thing of moving day feels so weird because we're not moving anywhere. They never moved to begin with to move back into their old house.
Yeah, she thinks that they're moving, but it's their old house. It doesn't make sense. Like you said, maybe you call it moving day. I know that a lot of times when you grow up with not a lot of money, like me and you, like your parents will make up games like, oh, this is camping out. You're actually homeless in a car, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. So in this, it would be like you had to go off and stay at a hotel for one night and then the spruce thing. Hey, we're moving day, but you're just going back to your own damn house. Even with the idea that even in her story here where she plays it up of, the Rock of Eternity and the things like that. Well, that would have been weird if we would have actually moved to the full deal, how that would have worked out. Like the new people move in and suddenly they're, in the Rock of Eternity through a closet. short moves with Billy, you'll tell me. But you end up here, it's just weird. So what we're going to have is that idea that Shazam, the captain, and Billy are getting separated. We've seen this. This is something that Mark Waid
powers
started.
of the wisdom of Solomon.
Yeah. And so, but with that, the captain, also claiming the wisdom of Solomon, doesn't want Billy to get these letters. And it wasn't set up
from
great.
His mama.
We just ended up seeing the captain like throw a letter into the fireplace where Darla ended up seeing it as well. And right away, me and you both even like, it's got to be from a parent. It's got to be the idea. I think I even messaged you that week.
No, you talked about it on the show.
And we talked about it, I think, even more, because I was thinking about what was the resolution that we had. I couldn't remember. But the idea that it would be apparent once you step into this issue and you actually even get a flashback,
we were comparing it to
happening.
what Jeff Johns was doing in his last Shazam run, the idea of bringing his father back, Cece. But the thing was, like, he was being controlled by Mr. Mind the whole time, and even when Mr. Mind's like control was left, then he's like, "What the hell am I doing here? I'm getting the hell out of here." He didn't care about Billy at all. So now we're going to move on to the next phase. That's where all of a sudden, piece of crap, mommy, she's back and she wants her baby boy.
And I remember the exact thing, if it was on the podcast or off, when I said, for some reason, I had the mom in my mind, Eric, dancing through my mind. And I said to you, like, didn't we have a scene where you like went up and you're like, I don't know if that was the movie. Remember we were talking like, are we mixing the movie and the thing up? For some reason, I kind of thought it would be the mom because we just had the dad.
The idea of the mom stuff, I think you'd have to go back to the backups of the Just League in the beginning of the
And I think that's what I was thinking of, that whole thing. And it was where, if you had read it, if I remember right, Billy went and then his mom's like, "Why are you here?" Like, I don't, like, he was so excited. Oh my God, I have to find her.
I want to say that you're forgetting, like, you're mixing the two up, but I'm going to as well, because that's the whole idea of standing in that apartment hallway and just waiting for the door to open. It's just
that's what I remember,
in my mind from the movie.
In that from the movie as well. But this actually, if that was the thing, this is actually more of a twist where it is the mom. And I guess the whole play here is, as this adoption is going on, you do have to
the Vasquez family adopting Billy and the rest of the kids.
And if the Vasquez family didn't end up, deciding this, there would have never been a reach out to the mom, who then had to get back and say, "Hey, I don't want to do that." But we're going to have to see what that means, because his mom was never nice to him. In fact, it's weird.
You get a very apparent right at the beginning of this issue with the idea where he was told a teacher that he was left home alone, and she's pissed at him for doing that. You never tell anybody if you're left home alone. You're going to make my boyfriend very anxious and stressful about what's going on right now.
And it's weird. It's like, he's there waiting to be picked up from school. Look at that stupid, like, he's pretending that him and his mom went to the amusement park too in that picture. But everybody's getting picked up and he's there. And when she shows up, she said, "I can't believe you told your teacher to call us. What were you thinking?" Because he's just sitting there waiting to be picked up. And it's a weird play. It was like, because I thought at first, I think that she's not saying the idea of being left alone at home. It's that nobody picked him up. Get the bus, Billy. They got buses.
I assume that he's been on his own for a little while at home while she shacked up the boyfriend, and he told somebody, and now she's forced to go and pick him up, and she's pissed about it.
Yeah, it's just like, she says, the boyfriend, he's upset and now is not going to be okay at home. People are going to think I can't raise you. It's just very odd. Like, he's there waiting. It looks like he's waiting for somebody to pick him up. Like, if he was, it's just weird. But again, it starts like some things in this issue to me aren't well developed in the part where I'm like, okay, you get the idea. I mean, really, that scene is mother piece of shit. That's all you need to know. And she's even at one point, I think that what you're going to twist and turn, and a little handsy boyfriend that's probably a bit abusive, and she's trying to like fight between those two things. But we'll see, because then we go back to Billy, and he's having this crazy nightmare. It's the Luke Skywalker Dagobah stuff, but it kind of ends before anything really happens there.
Yeah, it's such a weird idea, too, because you get more of the idea in this issue, as you did in the previous, that on top of the captain burning these letters before Billy ever does it, because the captain and Billy are separate people now that the Wisdom of Solomon is acting more enhanced than it has previously, he's also being able to take control of Billy's mind during Billy time and being able to block things out that's actually going on. So even the idea of these dreams, it seems like a subconscious level of him trying to understand this idea that the captain's doing more than he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, isn't it funny that, like, in this port where Billy wouldn't have anybody's dreaming of a thing or remembering a thing in his dreams about his mom, and then it's, like, closed up, and he's like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? And, yeah, so it is, the idea where it's not really, nefarious in a way. It's the idea that he doesn't want him to have these bad memories, but it's not good. He can't do this
I'm
sort
saying
of thing.
the thing is, the captain is pure good, right? He's the champion of Shazam, but the way, even with the idea of the wisdom of Solomon, he is going about it completely the wrong way because Billy is the host's body. Him going against him at this point in time, it just makes him to a bad guy.
Yeah, and if you ended up like really going into it, it would be the idea of, if you adopt a kid, do you tell them they're adopted? Do you tell them the real parent? And it seems like the captain just is like that. It's bad to remember the mom. That's going to ruin everything. We have a nice family here. I get it. But
even the idea of being like away from the portals to the Rock of Eternity and stuff like that, they have already set up in the Vasquez house. And so it seems like the idea of almost even preserving what he currently has instead of Billy's like best wishes.
Yeah. And so when you go back now, again, when these things happen, though, sometimes you get that little play of what should have been good ends up being bad because maybe they could have done some of these letters that are being sent. We find out what they are, and it might have been something that they could have dealt with.
Which is the weirdest part of, I say the weirdest part. There's actually a lot of weird parts in this book on top of the moving day aspect of it, because we saw previously that the captain was burning the letters when he got him into the fireplace at night. Darla and Hoppy ended up catching him, and now it seems like she finds a box of the burned letters under Billy's bed. I'm like, did he pull the letters out of the fire after he burned them and stacked them neatly inside of a box? Like, what is this?
Bad. He's like, I'm going to put the burnt letters there. I don't know. It's very odd.
Was this the plan before you decided to burn them when the box got too full? Why didn't you just burn the whole box? I don't know what this means or why we're doing it.
You say that. We go, and then we're going to get the gist of the issue where you have child services are going to come and interview the kids to see if the adoption is something that would be good, whatnot. And this lady is going to show up to do that. I swear to God, I thought it was Amanda Waller. I thought that we were playing an absolute power thing, and she was coming to see exactly what was going on with the captain and maybe Mary Marvel if she knew whatnot. I swear. The whole time I'm waiting for that reveal, and then it didn't happen.
It should be revealed, like, going forward that this is an agent of Amanda Waller to get us all in line with everything for absolute power.
To me, it looks a bit like Amanda Waller, just with glasses.
Even the idea when you have this person come in to interview everybody to make sure this is a safe home environment in the Vasquez family, even though they've been fostering these kids for years and years, are good to adopt people. It seems weird that, like, you go a little bit too harsh. Even when Darla walks into the kitchen with Hoppy on her shoulder, like, what are you doing with an animal in the eating place? And I'm like, you are. Like, who does this? Like, if a dog walked in the kitchen, would you lose your mind? You can't adopt these kids, you fucking scumbags.
What are you doing there with that kangaroo? I'm like, hey, we have a kangaroo.
Maybe that's a little different.
You wouldn't want that. What are you doing there with that wild boar?
Personally, I don't want to live in a house with a kangaroo. They scare the hell out of me.
You wouldn't like that? With boxing gloves on? Ready to go?
Boxing gloves or not, they're those little buff beefcakes that want to beat the shit out of me.
That is true. Well, at least they have boxing gloves. Or what did I used to call them? Boxing,
fighting? You call them punching gloves.
Oh, punching gloves. The punching gloves there. Yeah, punching gloves. But yeah, when this lady shows up.
Miss Sharma.
What is Miss Sharma? Like, she shows up. This guy is jogging by. At first, it looks just like Billy, too. I'm like, is this the plan? Because what you have is Mary setting up little jobs for everybody. Hey, Pedro, you're the guy who makes sure nothing bad happens. Hey, Freddie, you shut your mouth. Like, all these things as they're going down, it's okay. Again, it takes up space that
this
just
idea of the guy jogging when he's immediately attacked, and I thought this thing was going to eat the dog as well. It's such a weird idea because
said it did later, and that kind of threw me off too. It wasn't nice, right?
I don't want to think about it. I would have said, the dog survived. They were mistaken because that's how it always is in a horror movie. Now the animals are good. Fuck them people, but them animals, they good. But I didn't even get the idea until the end that this thing was happening where we have these jeepers creepers, these just shadow beings coming out from the cracks in the walls of the Rock of Eternity, coming and transforming people into bat monsters. I thought the bat monsters throughout the entirety of this were just more of those creatures from the in-between spaces that we saw in the previous issue. It's just a different version of that because we shut down the doorways that Zeus and the rest of the Pantheon have opened up in the Vasquez home, but there's still cracks. Magic's still leaking through from the Rock of Eternity, and for some reason, shadow monsters who come out can turn people into man bats and wreak havoc. I don't know why.
That's the other thing. It's not set up well. It's not set up and it's lame. I get the idea, almost like we bring it up a lot. The idea of the Zeppo episode of Buffy, where you have a big thing going on, but then some crazy thing it doesn't play out quite like that either. But what I thought was, and the progression I think is horrible with no setup at all, where this kid runs by with this dog. The dog, seemingly, you don't have to say it ate a dog. You really don't. That's weird. But I thought it was the lady. I thought she turned into it. This kid walked by and she's like, okay, let me take care of that because or then when I realized it wasn't, why doesn't she hear or see this? It's right there. She couldn't have gotten to the door yet. They're still out there. She never makes it inside. This kid is like 3 feet away from that car at that point and ends up being taken over, eaten, whatever, by this man-bat monster, and the dog gets eaten. And she's just like, okay, everybody's out on the front lawn. It's weird. And
the weird part about this, too, we live in a superhero world where crazy bad shit happens all the time, whether you're in Philadelphia or Central City. The idea that we're going to continue on the adoption interview with man-bat monsters out front that are attacking the house, but also try to keep the goofiness aspect. Like, we can't let Miss Schwarby hear this or no, so keep on doing the interview and lead her around the house. Even the idea where they walk into a room with Billy, and there's Tawny the tiger, who they didn't tell to fuck off for some reason during the goddamn interview and the house inspection. It's like, yeah, this is our tiger mannequin. We forgot. We like to have this here. And, like, let's go to another room. Like, well, if it's a tiger mannequin, why do we have to go to another room? Why is she okay with this? Like, no, we can do it right here.
And in the sitcom, it is. And again, I don't mind things. And then this book could be set up to have some sitcom fun. Yeah. But in the meantime, you go different ways with it. You end up having this lady, Miss Sharma. She's there. And first off, she's a hard ass. Then she's nice. Then she's scared. Then she's laughing.
Bad cop. Roller coaster ride of emotions.
Yeah, at one point, she's like ready to cry. Then she like, hey, we should go somewhere else. Yeah, we should. Like, I don't get it. Like, you have to have a solid character here, and that's what you play off of. If she is somebody who's like, oh my God, this woman is a stickler.
Oh no, we got hard ass Miss Sharma.
What it reminds me of is in License to Drive, where you have the lady with the red pen that like loves to mark things up. Like, yeah, oh man, I heard about her. She's so bad. But you don't have that, and so in the meantime,
which movie was it where Uncle Phil
was
the driving instructor? He had the hot cup of coffee on the dashboard.
That was actually the License to Drive as well. That's who he took the thing. But then the other lady was the lady. Remember that red-haired lady that was in the DMV? It's great. Oh, what a movie!
I'm just making sure. For some reason, I'm like, am I forgetting License to Drive? Because
remember Uncle Phil? R.I.P. Yeah. That he. I guess it was Corey Haim went through that whole course, and then at the end he had to slam on the brakes, and the empty cup ended up falling. He ended up, but he let him. Oh yeah, he did. I think he failed the written part. That's where, and then the lights or the electricity went out. Oh Meyer, can we talk more about that? But yeah, so when you have this, like, if you have the nosy neighbor in the because
the Kimmy
quite
Gibbler.
Frankly, that is what this is, or that like old lady who might have been the lady in the DMV and License to Drive in Small Wonder,
girl from Small Wonder,
or Small Wonder, the girl as well. You have it where they're there and you have to be worried. Oh my God, what will this lady think? But in the meantime, if this child services lady ends up looking out and sees man-bat thing woofs, what is that? That doesn't do anything for the that's just
Mr. and Mrs. Vasquez. I can't believe you would try to raise these adopted children in a man-bat infested neighborhood like this.
Yeah, like really. So the setup is to
shame on you, Victor and Rosa.
Oh no, where's Billy? Oh, he has to be the captain to fight these, but he really doesn't. And then when he does, it doesn't really. Oh, you were in the bathroom for an hour, like things. Nothing ever has any weight to it. And I know it's supposed to be goofy fun, but it doesn't work in its own situation where you're like, oh my God, or laughing at one point, like Billy had to do something, Freddie's doing things. Most of the kids, besides Billy and Mary, are just kind of like, standing around. Eugene's like, hey, come with me. And
the weird part about this, too, is that in the previous issue of Moving Day, we introduced the new neighbor girl, Bo, and she's nowhere to be seen in this entire thing.
Yeah, like have that and like the big...
Because I'm sure that's still a mystery where she's some kind of supernatural being from the magic leaking out and stuff, but she seemed like an interesting character, especially for how much Billy and Freddie were fawning over.
Yeah, and so when you have this, you have, oh my God, what a rabbit in the
in the kitchen?
In the kitchen, a rabbit in the kitchen. Get out of here. And they say that
lets him walk on the foods.
Is this the setup here? Do you think that by the end, however long Josie Campbell has, do you think that the Shazamily will be back? Do you think that we'll have the kids get the powers back?
No,
because I think they will.
Because we have spent so long just trying to freaking stamp down the idea that Shazam Captain is called the Captain and Mary is called Mary Marvel. Then we'd have to take time to make names for everybody.
I don't even think they cared before. They just kind of went with it.
And I think that since this is the driving force, I think, of the series to make sure that we stamp these things down that you would have to. And maybe that's a feather in your cap to name everybody, but it also could open you up for a lot of backlash if they're stupid fucking names.
Mary is Mary, and you have the Captain, but I don't even think after this they'll keep calling her the Captain. Nobody gives a shit. I just think people want this. And I think that the idea of having Hoppy not being understood by Darla is going to be the tell later that Hoppy is going to say something. Darla, watch out. And she'll understand him and we'll realize that they may have the powers back. It was just an odd thing to play. I would have just had, that she can understand.
I'm just wondering where the wizard is at this point, since he keeps coming back and forth with different things, different
he's just
series.
Hanging. But, and so Darla's going to go around with Hoppy. You're going to have them lead this lady around. Now, in the meantime, she is there to, interview them. Hey, let's see if... Why would you go through this? And then at the end say, oh, by the way, we can't do this adoption. Like, this would be the first thing. You would actually get a hold of them and say, listen, before we have this interview, we got to work shit out. And even then, why aren't they playing it that all of the rest of them, like, it seems like a group deal just because, Billy's mom, it's so weird to have this. There's no setup and everything it's forced in. Like you said, all of a sudden they go into a room and Tucky Tawny's there. Oh, that's my mannequin of a non-moving tiger mannequin. I'm like, that is not even funny. And she's like, I think we should use another room. Not, oh my God, I'm so into mannequins. Let me, but like nothing
even
of
like
the sense of fun.
The idea of Billy's mother trying to stop the adoption because she wants her son back. You interview all these kids, sit down with Billy, and before you even tell him any of this, you're like, hey, how do you like your family? Like, he starts talking about, no. I mean, like, your family before. It's like, how do you feel about your mother? You had kind of a bad childhood, didn't you? And you go through all this rigmarole for her to finally just say, yeah, your mother's kind of contesting things. We sent you a lot of letters. I don't know why you haven't responded. Maybe because I'm a child. Maybe you should have, addressed them to my foster parents.
And it's a weird, again, the weird play here is we can't do any of these adoptions because, it's one or whatever. It would have been a cooler thing to have this set up, and then Billy would be like, "Oh, Freddie, this sucks. I'm not going to be able to be adopted." And he's like, "Yeah, it kind of sucks. I don't have the power of Shazam too, asshole," because it is that reverse deal. And I think it would have been a cool play for Billy to man, now I know how you feel. The idea of them getting adopted and him not is kind of like him having the power and Mary. And they even say Mary's 18, so it doesn't matter with her anyway. It's all the rest of the kids.
That's weird, too, the idea where Mary is 18. She has, but it's not like it's a new development. But it almost feels with the idea where she's not included just because of her age, where Billy might actually have to go, maybe even run away, become a street kid again, maybe even go back to the idea of the original status quo of Billy Batson, street kid, and being on his own, where we leave the rest of the Vasquez kids alone, because it just seems weird for the idea where, I don't know, does the mother see how good he has it here and her heart grows 3 sizes too big that day?
I that's what I kept thinking, what is her deal? I think that she's going to play the game, listen, that abusive boyfriend, he's gone, it's good, but we'll see that she has we always end up seeing that she has some ulterior motives. Maybe this is the time that we don't, but then if that's going to play, because who knows anymore? They had a dog get eaten in this, so I guess all bets are off. But I think that maybe what you'll have is the mom wanting Billy back, but then realizing the Vasquezes, oh my God, they're so great, and you have this family, I will send it off. But can we hang out at Burger King once a month and then disappears like your dad? So you have that, but I do think you might get that play. But how long is that going to take? And is that, that interesting because you're just kind of fiddling around with
the idea
things.
Where the whole premise of this is going to set up like a game show by the end, because after Miss Shawarma tells everybody, Sharma, not Shawarma, but Sharma tells everybody what's going on. Hey, the living family member is contesting this adoption, and she just goes and opens the front door, and Billy's mom is waiting there, here's contestant number 1.
I love the idea. She says, and by the way, let's open door number 1. Where is she? Oh my God, we see her getting flown away by man bats. Oh shit, I didn't think that would happen.
And again, like in the previous issue, we end up stopping the magical leak at this point in time, doing Shazam magic stuff, where everybody fought, it's pretty much just, hey, I'm going to do some magic lightning stuff, and everybody turns back from man-bat people into regular people.
Because everybody are Batmen, man-bats. They're going around, and Mary goes out first, because she's already out there. She doesn't have to be involved. That's the only reason she's not really have to be involved, but she's out. Somebody ate a dog. You're there, and they're picking up cars. I think that is Miss Sharma's car. How's she getting home? So they're throwing cars around, and when they come out, you end up where Mary, when she first starts trying to fight these things, we're just like you. Jeepers. Yeah, we're this, and there's a leak. Everything's just thrown at you with no setup. You're like, what do you mean by we're like you? The thing I'm like, it didn't look like. And so as this goes on,
there's going to be more of us like you, because the magic keeps leaking. It's going to open up all of these things, because our kind was dormant, and it's been waking us up, and no longer it's the magic leaks out. It's going to wake up all of us, and it's going to be a supernatural fucking monster mash.
So it's a monster mash. They're just getting along, they're having a party. you end up where all of them are there, and like the idea of we're just like you is supposed to be we're humans that got turned into this, but you don't really say that. In fact, when they end up where Billy says, I think I'm going to use some magic. Oh my God, it worked. They're turning. Never
that's
explain
what we did for the previous issue to close the doors.
Why
now we're doing it again.
Why can't if you're not gonna if you don't know how this happens in Birds of Prey? If you have a story and in the story you run into a deal and say, I don't know what to do here. I'm just going to throw magic at it. Please get off the book. You got to be able to. You got to be smarter than this. But when they do that and they turn to the people, I'm like, what the hell are these guys? So, they were the and so one of them ate a dog. They're never going to be able to look at themselves in a mirror. Other guys are going around throwing fucking cars around. And so the big sitcom deal is, oh no, Billy has to go out as the captain and fight off these things. And all they do, that's solved by closing curtains. That is it. The shades and the curtains are closed. It never ends up doing anything.
Hey, did you hear that? I think kids are playing outside, Miss Sharma.
Yeah. Hey, they're playing video games. Real loud video games. At one point, I don't know if a baby wasn't eaten. It looks like it might have happened. I don't know. And so
it is Philadelphia. It happens.
Yeah, that is true. It's like all of a sudden you see a greased up baby climbing up a light pole because the Eagles won a Super Bowl. You end up where even Darla's like going through things and just for no reason goes in and like, I think that Billy's acting weird. I know that you know what I'm saying, Hoppy, but I can't understand you. We're going to go and snoop. And then they find the box of burnt up letters. Like
she says, burnt up letters. Like they look fine. What are you talking about?
Burned letters. So the captain goes and burns the letters. I mean, I see these fires going. Like they're not surviving. It's hotter than rosé. You end up then. Who is going and getting the letters?
Well, that's the thing. You have to imagine. Here's the wisdom of Shazam. He's burning the letters so Billy can't read them. With magic, he reconstitutes them and locks away in a box. It's all symbolic.
So it's symbolic. I burned you letters, but stupid. I really don't know why it's here. It doesn't make sense. Like, wouldn't it be the idea that maybe she goes around and there's that new bunch of mail that has one of these letters and maybe she sees it? Oh, this is just like the letter. Because then even Miss Sherman's like, here's a letter. Don't you recognize these? And this is what Billy says. No. So he didn't put him in that damn box. Right? What's in the box there? And no, my head hurts. That's not been set up either that much of when the captain wants to take control, he gets a headache.
It did in the previous issue, if you go back and think, where, like, remember the thing, like, it felt really weird, the idea, like, I have something to show you in the kitchen, and then he blacked out, like, no, I said in the hall.
Not getting headache. He said, I feel weird, and we were like, what's this? That's not set up. This is weird, and nothing is set up. So you end up where he goes in and now he's going to talk to himself in the mirror. Look at you, Captain. I don't like you. You're doing these things. Stop fighting me. And slaps his ass. He slaps himself. It's so funny when he gets there. Like, don't hit yourself, jerk. But then he just, boom, and he's outside again fighting man-bats and wolfmen and whatever the fuck.
Well, that's because the captain took control of him, made him say Shazam so the captain could come back and fight man-bats. And
even then, I wanted it to be like something clever that he makes, almost like a Mixel-Plick kind of deal, and he's just like Shazam. And I just wanted this to be a little more clever and a little more maybe fun. If you're going to play fun, then play fun. But this is not fun. It's just what you think is wacky hijinks, and you don't really get much.
It is wacky hijinks. I think there is room for fun, but I still want a serious take on this book. You can have some fun stuff because you are dealing with kids, but the idea of this, I feel like it feels serious enough that it feels like it has stakes.
What did I tell you?
Make sense.
Oh, what is the stake, Eric? I told you that I thought that what they were doing when Mark Waid started this, the idea of separating them was we would get more adult, mature stuff with the captain that you wouldn't be able to have with the kids and stuff, and then Billy would be able to do his own thing, with Freddy and stuff. But we're not getting that. What we're doing, and here is how this ends up stuff. There's man-bats who I didn't know were people. They end up, hey, follow the big red birdie. You want the magic of the Rock of Eternity, then you can choke on it. And they end up like, and again, is this wise that you do this to people above the clouds? The people are falling to their deaths.
I don't know if they knew that they were people either.
But again, you kind of had Mary. It seems like Josie Campbell wants you to know that they knew. Like, I didn't. So maybe they're trying to get him. But again, the big ramifications of all these people falling are nothing. They go, hey, I'm on it. Boom. They save them all. And they have them, they lay them down. I think it's the bald guy who ate the dog. And you end up where, oh my God, we better get back. Miss Sharma, she gets suspicious, and then Billy comes out, and they're like, "Oh, you were in the bathroom for an hour, never asking," and nobody even. So stupid.
I found
An
a Macy's
hour.
catalog. I couldn't
See,
stop staring
20
at.
minutes is enough. Yeah, really. We heard the water running. Oh my God!
You said you were brushing
Do
your
you know
hair.
your adopted son masturbates? And then that's where you get door number 1. Says after all that, she then finally
Really?
says, "Oh,
Did
by
you get
the way."
mellitus?
I like she goes, "Before we go any further, I want to say thank you. It's clear that you love each other. This is great,
You've
thriving
been here
deal."
for over an hour. What do you mean before we go
Way
any
more.
further?
Billy was in the bathroom for just the hour. And she's like, "I have to put this on hold. Listen, bitch, she led with it. You buried the lead with this
Seriously.
idea of let's go through this." Maybe she's like, "Listen, I don't want to come back. So I'll do the interview and then we'll wait." But even that doesn't make sense, and says, "Oh, by the way, yeah, your mom, this, boom, 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 knock on the door. There's your mom." I'm like, well, what's Diana Prince doing here? It would be funny. She comes, it's Wonder Woman. She's like, "I'm on the run. Somebody fucking close the door. Nobody knows I'm here." But you end up where, "Billy, son, did you get my letters?" But it seemed to be official letters. Maybe there were other letters too. These were official, like,
It was a whole box of burnt up letters.
but they were all in that same colored envelope that seemed to be official letters saying, "Hey, you got to get a hold of us," things like that. And I don't know. I don't know. And at least we know that she didn't
Again,
give up her
stop
parental
addressing
rights.
it to only a child.
She just wrote, "Dear," it's like Billy. It's how did she know where to send it? I don't get
Well,
it.
you do it like you did back in the day. Like, oh, I want to send a letter to my favorite star. Dear Clint Eastwood, Hollywood, USA. Billy Bassett, Philadelphia,
That's
USA.
who you came up with.
I
Clint
don't
Eastwood.
know.
And Clint
The
Eastwood's
thing
like,
is, I was gonna say somebody else, but I feel like I'm trying to come up with somebody who's not going to piss somebody off for some
Clint
reason.
Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood for some reason.
Ron Howard. Clint Eastwood opens it up and he's like, "What an asshole." Throws it down like, "What a
You
jerk."
ain't getting that letter.
Can you imagine that's now we go back in time and the big thing was that you were being bullied by kids in school and you called and Clint Eastwood shows up to beat the shit out of him. Now that's a movie.
Dear
That's a
man
movie.
with no name, please help me. I think it was John Wayne, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, he had the thing with the whole "Dear Outlaw Josie Wales, I'm having a lot of problem, and I saw what you did to that guy that said you had a pretty mouth. Can you
Dear
come
the
and meet me?"
searchers,
Oh, he's so great. Who else would you write
I
a letter
don't care.
to?
I don't care if this gets to the good, the bad, or the ugly. Somebody please help me.
Dear Ernest Borgnine, can you come and help me out? I need your help desperately. Oh my goodness!
We're supposed to have a tie-in because there was an actor in that one movie. I can't even think of the name
We're
now.
playing 6 degrees of bullied Eric now.
But the character, the actor's name was Eric Shea, and there was Ernest Borgnine in that movie, and it was an underwater movie where something was
The
sinking. I
Poseidon
can't think of it.
Adventure. It was the Poseidon
Was it
Adventure.
Poseidon?
I
Okay,
believe
I can't
it was.
think of it.
I think it was. I love when they had disaster movies. It's like, okay, we burned down too many towers and shit. Let's take it under seas. Let's go. Yeah. So I think that's what it was.
Well, even in
Poseidon
James
Adventure.
Bond movies, they're like, okay, what are we going to do this time? Do underwater again. People love that underwater shit. Not me.
Dear Leonard Nimoy, I could just imagine you. That would be. Dear Spock, I'm having problems with my math. It's not logical. Please help. And then
My math ain't mathing.
Scotty shows up, and you're like, "Oh, Jesus Christ!"
No, that's
like I
fine.
need that guy.
He's an engineer. He knows what's going on.
You'd probably have fun with him, right?
Yeah.
Bones shows up, and he's like, "I'm a doctor, not a mathematician." See, it all
Oh, no.
works. It all
He
works.
leaves.
And then dear Captain Kirk ain't come. He's there as your mom, Green. Like, kind of with envy of everybody else in this world. So she
He'll
comes,
still
right?
bang her.
Yeah, that is true. If it was me as a kid, like, dear Paul McCartney, he ain't getting that. Though he probably would have a better chance of getting that than anybody else, even overseas. But we end with Billy's mom at the door. Look at her. She's a whore. I just had to rhyme, Eric. I don't know if you appreciate it. It's my signature move, Eric. But what would you
There's
give it?
Billy's mom at the door. The Vasquez family no more.
Is no more. Yeah, I mean, you could say, Billy opens his door, there's his mother. Why the hell can't they adopt the other? Right?
Shake him to the core.
Does that work? There, it did shake him to the core. Look at him. They do a good job of showing you that it's definitely his mom, right?
Especially because they had the bookend of that where you got to see what his mother looked like.
Yeah, and she looks just like him with long hair. Pretty sexy. But what would you give this?
Stop saying that a young boy is sexy.
I'll say one thing. She looks like she actually, improved her lot in life. Looks very fancy. Like maybe this is her one going out outfit, but it looks kind of anybody with a
that's the
scarf
thing
is not outdoors.
Once we got rid of the kid, the boyfriend's stress went away. He became a big deal. Now they can afford all the fancy things.
We didn't realize that the dad's Eminem.
Like cement cons.
The boyfriend was Eminem when he started rapping. It's Will Smith. We're in Philadelphia, right? So what would you give it?
I'll give it a 5.5 out of 10. This is a very disappointing issue. I think it looks great. It's just every step of the way, starting even with the previous issue, it just doesn't feel like everything fits together the way it should. It just kind of feels like a mismatch of ideas that aren't fully thought out.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think that this if it was fleshed out, maybe it would be at least fun and kind of, deal, because it is big stuff, the mom, but it just comes at you.
Moving day throws me off immediately.
Well, everything comes at you and nothing really hits. And then at the end, I hate to say it with the mom. I mean, you know what I said about her, but
I do.
We've seen this.
Every mother
We've
and her
seen
wife.
this. This is about basic bitch Billy story anyway. I just don't know why they're like, we can't be adopted because of Billy's, like, that doesn't make sense. Be funny. Freddie's like, oh, I guess this, Billy's mom's going to adopt us. She's like, not you. Get out of here. But
that's you, cripple.
That's the thing, though. I was going to say, I didn't want to get yelled at. This is the thing, though. She's like, oh my God. Person. She's at the door. She's coming in and she goes right past Billy and hugs Freddie because he's got a scarf on too. Right? They're like, oh, my son. The scarf.
Just hug Eugene. Has no idea what Billy looks like. Can't remember. My boy.
Make it Darla. Oh, my. And then we find out that the boyfriend was actually Tuggy Tawny. She's there to, get him back. I'm a 5. Just a regular 5, not any sort of special 5. I don't have Sammy cued. But it's not. This is not anything that's going to make you mad, except for the reason that it doesn't end up being fleshed out more. It kind of just comes and goes, and you kind of shrug your shoulder. But we'll go to the next book that might have Eric Shea say the same thing, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe. Kneel Before Zod, number 5, written by Joe Casey with art by Dan McDade, David Barone, and Troy Pateri. And in the previous issue, we had Drew Zod go and say, I'm going to burn everything down. I'm going to go to that mothership of the Kuns that's orbiting around my planet, and I'm going to blow that thing up with me inside it and kill everybody, suicide mission style. I'm going to be left with Drew Zod just kind of floating in space, a shell or a skeleton of his former self until he was picked up by another ship. And it seems like even though he survived this, he's not too happy about the people who went and, rescued him in space. Not at all. No. It's such a weird idea, too, because you have a Skeletor Drew Zod here. A Skeletor General Zod, essentially. All the flesh burned off him. He's a monster man, like, if you could think about it. It's weird because Ursa, for a few seconds, they had their powers turned off by their sons or the one son becoming red. He still had a dual son. Her powers were taken away. She was stabbed and she died. Yes, we still have the suns there, but I feel like the explosion that burns off all your skin and then taken inside of a place where you're not exposed to the yellow suns, like you should, in my mind, the way he is right now, still die.
The weird thing about it, if you go with it, first, it kind of reminds me in this of what sometimes Deadpool looks like when he gets all beat up he doesn't, but that's what it looks like. But boy, the non-appreciative nature of Zod gets me. I mean, these guys are even doing acupuncture. I mean, they're really going, over. He's like got a salon day going. I think, and it's not, I think that maybe those screens might be yellow, but they're green, but they might actually be like yellow sun things that they realize he's Kryptonian and they're trying to heal him.
I hate to say disparaging things about art, but when you actually have him on the table, it looks like a self-made independent comic that you're just trying to sell on the street.
I thought it actually just kind of looks like it's going with the horror vibe of it, and maybe even an old school deal, like a Keith Giffen looking art, maybe. You know what I'm saying?
I tell you, I just look at it like some of the lines are just like thrown around, and I don't know, it doesn't feel like cohesive.
I wanted somebody to say at a point, because there are what look like lamps and things, but other things just look like screens. But I wanted them to say, because he's going to use heat vision. They should have said, oh my God, why did we we should have had the yellow sun deal. It seems like he's powered up still, but like you said, that doesn't really make much sense. And I actually liked this issue more the first time through. That was kind of when I was like, yeah, happy-go-lucky, Jimmy. And then the second time through, reading it for this, I'm like, yeah, I'm starting to see some of the cracks here and not loving it as much. But when you do start out, you do have like a flashback kind of dream. Yeah. And it's of the mind, but it's kind of like what Zod wants to remember, what he did. Things seem to be kind of crunched together.
Zod's father sending him out because he's the firstborn son, and this is what you do in the Zod family, just like Drew Zod did to his Lord Zod at the beginning of the series.
Yeah, and so he goes off and he grabs this crystal.
Drew's a little bit more hardcore than Lord, though, because when he was a boy, he decided, I'm going to remember where I came from. I'm going to set this crystal or this piece of this knife on fire, and then carved the Zod freaking crest on my chest to always remember where I came from, just dripping blood everywhere. I'm like, you are a little psychopath. I know why your daddy sent you out.
That is funny. It's like, I send him like, you know what, Rafe, you gotta go. Like, and he looks real young in this deal. Like, I'm gonna send you out. You're gonna do. He comes back with like a full back tattoo with like snakes and shit. I'm like, what happened? But that's what you have.
To remember where I came from, Daddy-o.
Exactly, yeah. So when he's doing this, you intersect it with...
Clean up the snakes.
So they're doing like hey, we're here. And this is almost like, it's funny. It's like the Niagara Falls of Krypton. They're like, hey, everybody comes here to the falls.
The lava Niagara Falls where Drew Zod is just kind of living on the streets.
Yeah, like they're like, people come here after their nuptials to hang out at the lava fall. Oh my God, what's that? And it's
just a monster. I'm like, it is a young boy teacher, man.
Yeah, it'd be funny where they're like, oh my God, what's that? And it's a kid, and he's like, hey kid, are you okay? He turns around and has that bloody tattoo carving, and it's, oh my God. But the teacher reacts like, holy crap, this is a monstrosity.
He calls him a monster.
Yeah, look at him. He says a monster, and he goes off. And again, this might be a little bit of Zod's mind thinking back, but I'm going with that. That teacher's awful, and it's good that he died. And so you end up where, and I mean when Krypton gets destroyed, so obviously. You end up where Zod then, he's like, what are you looking at? Because as the teacher runs away, it's a Home Alone situation. He didn't count the heads right, and you end up having Jor-El there with him. I love when the teacher's like desperately trying to pull these kids out of this fucking pit that they were. What kind of a sort of, what permission slip do you have to do to go there? How do you get down? But he goes and there's one missing. It's Jor-El.
So you say that too. I remember as a young kid, I don't know if it was kindergarten or what, but I went on a weird field trip into the woods with whatever the teacher was. We moved around a lot. But for some reason, the teachers...
like an ice cream truck? Because this doesn't sound like a real trip.
It was like a weird hike into the woods, and for some reason, the teacher involved, there was a pit in the and there was a tree that crossed it. He's like, "Okay, kids, let's cross this here," and it's not like a different tree. Time. And then we got halfway through, we realized, oh shit, this is a bad idea. I'm going to lose some kids here. Okay, everybody turn around and walk back. I'm like, I'm going to die because I was already on this. Somehow my clumsy ass didn't fall to his death. But I just remember looking down and thinking, why are we crossing this?
Tanya's been this week. It's funny you say that. Tanya's been watching all these Gen X, we had it hot, like that sort of video, on Instagram, this is what Gen Xers did compared to millennials. And there's these things, but this one guy did have a thing where it's like a city square type deal, like a town deal. And they had a hose and the water's running and they were like, hey, do you want to drink out of this hose? And only older people were drinking out of the hose.
Well, yeah, that's what you always drank out of hoses.
I actually, when was the last time you would have drank out of a hose? It has to be a while, but it was
probably 1996.
Yeah, nobody else. That's the last time you hanky-sacked, too. Or maybe played Ultimate Frisbee, right? The Ultimate Frisbee.
No, I did that.
But yeah, nobody, no young kids would drink out of the hose and thought it was disgusting and wanted to get help because they were.
I just imagine the idea because I know when I was growing up, my buddy Jeffrey had a gigantic backyard where we always played baseball, and in between innings, you just go up to the hose and you get freaking water.
Yeah, that's what we did. That's what we did. My uncle's name was Jeffrey, and now you got me running scared, making sure my pants are zipped up. But you end up where there's Zod. He's sitting there. He's all mad. And I do like the interaction at first, but again, it's of the mind where Jor-El's like, hey, look at you. What are you doing down here, little guy? I'm True Zod. Oh, I like your dad. Pretty tough guy. It must be hard living with that guy. I heard his speeches. He's a jerk, but he's the greatest. It's such a classic.
Your entire life is a tragedy, Zod. Everything you touch ultimately decays into dust. Damn you, Jor-El. Do not judge me. I will see you in hell first.
Who's the monster? The guy who carved the bloody symbol of his family into his chest, or the guy who's morphing into different ages? He's older. You look older now. And then he just throws shit. Yeah, he just throws shit. Yeah. I like, though, that Zod's one of those where he can badmouth his family. You don't badmouth his family. He gets all upset. But again, this is him where he's kind of in a coma, kind of dreaming this. And he pops out. And he sees everything. Now, he doesn't quite freak out in the way of, I don't know where I am. He seems to, he's just ripping shit out. And he's so mad. And these people saved you.
Rampage time.
I wonder, and what he's going to end up doing by the end of this is make a Legion of Zod, which is kind of cool. But he might have just been able to do that with everybody. He is so angry at this point of, how dare you? Maybe he should have played out, why did you save me? I wanted to die. He just is mad, but he says, how dare you keep me in prison? I don't know what he thinks prison is. I mean, this is just ER. I can imagine Luke gets out of the back of the tank and he's freaking, fit to kill. He's ready to kill everybody. How dare you imprison me?
I wish they would have had a thing to the idea, because when they try to subdue him with their, mecha robot security.
The riot drill, they say, yeah.
They say, ship sensors confirm prisoners not wearing a collar, like a restriction collar for the powers, like a bunch of the prisoners have, because this is a prison ship. And I'm like, I wish you would have said the idea that we originally didn't have one on him because, it would kill him if his powers were restricted for how badly damaged he was.
True, because the Kryptonian powers, you would need that.
Because I'm just yelling, I'm like, were you going down there to put a collar on, and you're just reporting back that they haven't been able to put a collar on yet? Or are you saying that he didn't have one?
That would have been a better play. And you could have even had, the way you could have the captain's like, thank God he has a collar on. Yeah, Bones there. And he's like, well, by the way, we couldn't put it on or he wouldn't have healed his powers. And like, oh shit, we're done.
And these aliens are just the worst in my mind, physically looking, because they just look like Kluins, but they just have a single eye coming out on a stalk with just a dangly eye bit in front of them, and like a Cyclops with an extension. I'm like, you guys are gross. I hope Druzad kills all of you.
While I was reading it, I was trying to spoiler. I was thinking of a joke, like in the land of the blind, the guys with the doesn't work, the tentacle eye. And then you see where when the guys end up, they seem to have they can get a patch. And they could press it up against their face, like those guys put the helmet on.
I just don't know why they would have these riot mecha gear suits going on where they have the thing so compressed that you have to push your eye back. I don't know what happens to your eye stalk that gets that's just straight out horizontal from your face, that it has to push all the way back. Maybe leave some room for your eye stalk.
And
I don't know.
I got the idea that when actually, I would say that when you are this people, they haven't end up saying the race, but you end up where. The longer the stalk, the women like you, that sort of thing. You got length matters. But when you do see the captain up close, it threw me off because it just looks like they have a stalk eye in the middle and just closed up eyes on either side. They still end up making it almost why? Why did you do that? It makes it so weird that you have this clear. I really wanted two of these guys is and then she said my stalk was too long. And then the other guy's like, nobody's ever said that to you, Eric. It'd be so good to be me and you. I just wanted these side things with these guys. Because while it's so ridiculous, I do like when they try to make this make sense more. But when you have eyebrows for the eyes, what are you doing?
That's the thing, as I was just talking about I don't appreciate all the goofiness of the Shazam title, but maybe that little idea of them hanging out and just being goofy in this, because the thing is, with Druzad coming out all Skeletor and going on a rampage throughout the ship, just killing everybody, that's the entire issue. And I mean, it is so kind of boring and just one-dimensional because you don't get much at all until the end. It's the whole thing. It's all right, let's just waste some time until the end for we have our new status quo and do stuff the next time. And I feel like a lot of books, even especially this one, you have nothing for the entire issue, and you're just kind of waiting for that last page to see what's going to happen next. And ultimately, you get excited, oh, where's this going to go? And next thing you know, you go to it, we let us fight, and things change for the last page.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, when we had the end of the last issue that we did with this, I did say, hey, we might get some Guardians of the Galaxy. It kind of feels like. But when I read it here, I mean, it feels a lot like Joe Kelly's like, you know what people like? They like that Batman Off-World.
I wish I got more Batman Off-World vibes from this.
Well, again, you already have that, so the spark's up because there's even
I get more Jason X.
Well, yeah, even have a robot that seems to want to hang the punch butt, but it's not as good. Everything's less. And so when you're doing this, though, if you are enjoying this series, which I can't say I'm hating it. I didn't like the first issue. Then I've started. It's so disjointed now. What is this book? If you ended up and you said to Joe Kelly at the beginning, or Joe Casey, I'm sorry, Joe Kelly is another thing. You end up where it's okay, what's your plan for this book? And he's like, well, at first I'm going to have a thing with, Zod. He doesn't feel good. He has a weapon of mass destruction. Then he's going to send off Lore, but then Ursa's going to die, but then he's going to get mad, blow up a planet, and then get picked up by slavers. What is going on in this book? It really doesn't have any sort of really cool narrative. And I think what happened was it was going to be a story mainly against the United Planets. And then they must have said, we have other things for that. That's bigger.
But it could have been cool to tie them together.
And and I think that seems like that is pushed aside, even though they could go against it now. I don't know.
Still got time.
But maybe you had to delay it a little. I have no idea because it seemed like a pretty good idea set up where, again, Zod's pissed because he just wants to have this planet. Nobody will let him be and whatever. Now he's wrecking stalk-eyed assholes.
And even at that point, though, he releases the prisoners, that opens the cages for this, prison ship that's transporting prisoners. Essentially, you have a little, who's got the bigger dick contest with the prisoners, trying to see who's in charge.
That's actually some fun with Big Rig, but you don't do enough.
No, because this is it's the end of the issue already, and it's just Drew Zod, as you know he will, come in, kill the guy, and say, you all work for me now. And even the idea, you will be my Legion of Zod. And I'm like, all right, look, guys, I know you're trying to play on the idea of the Legion of Doom, trying to hearken the ideas of that kind of thing, because when you do it
or
like
even
in
the
Flash
Legion
and you
of superheroes, man.
No, just like the Legion of Zoom. That's a cool, clever way of doing it. The Legion of Zod does not roll off the tongue. I know what you're doing. I just don't think it's even if you did Legion of Drew, it's closer. It's not good by any means.
So wait, I'm on the phone. I'm calling Cy Spurrier. What would he call it, Eric? Because, he's got all those things that he has going on in the Flash book that he's, all the things that we love.
The Crown of Thorns.
I guess,
no, it's just you get an army at the end where all of these, prisoners are going to pretty much have to do what Zod does because they still have their prohibitive collars on, and Zod is the one with all the power who can kill anybody because he's a Kryptonian, so they're going to have to do what he says.
They have the collars too. Yeah, you can press the collars. It's like a Suicide Squad deal. But you keep going.
I'll give you great pain if you go against me. I have the trigger thing right here. And I'm just looking at this Skeletor General Zod here. And I just think that he looks more like an organic character from Marvel called Death's Head. Do you remember Death's Head?
Yeah.
He looks just like an organic version of that
to me. They tried to bring him back a little bit ago. It didn't work. When you have this, though, I like where, Big Rig, he's there. And it was fun. I mean, the idea that he's like, listen, Big... Now, in this, you also have what, I don't know if you like it or not, but you have the idea when you say a curse word, it's Sprock. Sprock you.
Oh, yeah.
Sprock that.
That's funny space.
That is the F-bomb,
or
right?
The future,
Probably.
yeah.
The Sprock is, Big Rig says, I'll Sprock anything that moves. I'm like, boy, you're getting sexy here. Because that is weird.
He's a prisoner. It makes sense.
I guess. I just wanted to set you up just so I can verify that he did say, I'll Sprock anything that moves. I'm like, we heard that about Big Rig. I mean, I've heard that about a lot of people. But then he dies. It's one of those, it's like the Boba Fett.
He's sprocking nothing.
He ends up dying. I actually wanted him to be kind of involved. I thought he was kind of funny.
Well, no. See,
he talks about himself in the first person and stuff. So cool.
Zod had to do what you always have to do when you're in prison thing. You have to go after the biggest guy in charge and knock him down, or laser vision his fucking belly out.
So what you do then...
People might have said laser vision. I hate when people say heat vision.
Let's play up the real fun then. First off, he says, I'll Sprock anything that moves. I want to see that. But when you have that little guy who looks like Spock, and he's like, oh yeah, I want him to actually knock out Big Rig as there's the joke. The little guy, you never get this, Eric, that I'd like the little guy to win. But then he gets killed, Big Rig survives. You do that. But you don't do that. And then he has the Legion of Zod, which you're right.
The Legion of Zod, it just does not it doesn't play to me. It's not fun. And it feels like you're just trying too hard by not coming up with, but also not coming up with something that's clever enough to be the Legion of Doom kind of counterpart.
So funny. I'm trying to think of things, and the only thing I was going to say Mad Zod because of Mad, but nothing really right.
I'm telling you, I wouldn't have had it called anything. I say you're not all soldiers in Zod's war.
Yeah, no. What you say is that he says, listen, from this moment on, boom, you'll kneel before Zod.
Exactly. And then he tied it to the title.
Yeah, tied to the title. And that's where you have Big Rig, who's actually still survives. He's like, I'll do that for free, he says. He'll kneel
Big
before
Rig.
Big Rig says he's horned up. But he's got those. I don't like things with those bottom
Big Rig
fangs.
is the one who's doing the sprocking. He ain't sprocking nothing.
That is true. He's a big dude. I mean, and most
he ain't
of those
getting sprocked.
Most of those guys, when he says, I'll sprock anything that moves, you have 8 of these guys are like, he's not joking. Really, and you look at them, none of them can sit down anymore, Eric. They're having a lot of problems. But by the end, it is just Zod waking up, getting pissed that they were doing nice acupuncture and stuff.
This is what we're doing every issue, though. The Kuns coming in, let's fight them. Okay, the Kuns are over there. Let's fight them again.
Right? The running Kuns.
Oh, God. I need more from this title that I look forward to because I really enjoy the idea of a Zod book because I want to see what he's going to do ever since he got the status quo of New Kandor and everything like that. And essentially, it's just okay, let's burn everything down and just fight people. And I'm like, I need more.
And I think that this book had an opportunity to have that niche thing with a lot of readers of, okay, you're sick of these goody two-shoes things. Yeah. This is in space. You could have Zod. And even then, you start out with him kind of being a simp, and then he's back. Now he's back. We're at issue 5, where he is actually kind of acting like Zod, but he also looks horrible. I don't want to shame the guy, but he looks terrible. And he is getting a band of kind of goofballs, and they're going to go off.
Alien criminals.
Yeah, I mean, one is Captain Carrot. He's a carrot. I didn't even see that guy at the one point. He's a fucking carrot.
I've seen that species before.
Yeah. So they're there, and you have all that things going on. There was even the Green Lantern. That's that, correct? Isn't there one of the carrot guys? Or like he's broccoli? I don't know.
Broccoli, yeah.
I can't tell the difference between vegetables. I really don't. So at the end, though, when this happened, and I said I read through it the first time, I kind of like, okay, we're getting this odd thing. And I know a couple people that read stuff. And I said, hey, did you read? So I know a couple of people, my guy.
Read stuff?
No, I said, well, the people I talk to, like Gray or my man Sully. And I'm like, hey, did you? No, nobody's reading this anymore. They dropped it. And I actually was like, man, it's already lost its opportunity.
Well, even the idea of killing off Ursa, like that's a big deal to me. But no, we just moved on. There's no ramifications.
Yeah, and there wasn't really that much to it. I remember when Bleeding Cool leaked it, and people are like, Ursa, who? Like they didn't even know, right? Yeah, it was a shame. But what would you give this?
I would give this a 5 out of 10. I'm just going to keep going lower and lower with the series because every issue we're just not getting anything, and it feels like it's almost all right. I got a story. It's only 4 issues long, but they gave me 12, so I really have to pad this out for fucking half a year until we get there. And I'm like, I just don't think it's worth it anymore because I want a good story, but I haven't seen it yet. Even the cool aspects, we just move on. I don't know.
It's like Big Rig. You asked for 4, you got 12, and you don't know what's going on. I'm giving it a 6.5. I actually did still like it more than you. I really want it more big. I really want it that it's weird because
I need to see this dude fuck everybody.
Here's the thing: it's with Zod. He's such a solitary guy, but he did have Ursa, and like I wanted him to like kind of say, okay, I'm going to lead this deal, but I need you to be my second in command.
Rig. I'm your papa now.
Yeah, I kind of wanted kind of like that stuff and that Big Rig, like Big Rig don't do shit like that. Like, I don't know. Again, I want a book that ends up not being what this book should be. And actually, I'm looking at all the elements there, and I do recognize that one like dog deal. I think that was
it's like a North species.
Yeah. And I think that I even saw like these do look. I'm telling you, they do look like they have that Keith Giffen look. And a lot of the things that we even done are things I went back to. One guy even looks like Ambush Bug with a fucking helmet on. So we'll see. But again, is this the book that you're going to for fun?
No,
I don't think so. That's where I think the problem might be. But I don't know. Maybe this is like the course correction they think it needs. I don't think it did. I think it needed to be a little more hard-edged at the beginning.
I really think it should be tied down to the United Federation of Planets, but
I just wonder why.
It barely feels involved at all.
You know what the thing is if you have a book, Neil, before Zod, and then you figure he's going to tear them all down, and you don't want that to happen. I don't know. But that's something that has to be decided. Yeah, I'm looking to it.
Because not only then do you do stuff with Zod, which will make Superman fans happy, or just general Zod fans. It'd be weird to be a general Zod fan and not a Superman fan. But you have a book that's doing this while also showing you how big the United Federation of Planets are, and like their forces to make them, put them on high to know that when we actually do deal with them, they are a legitimate threat.
And I'm looking too. You got a Dominator in there. You got a Troll Doll. All these things. What it does end up doing. Going away from them, tell me if you think this, going away from the United Planets makes this book feel more and more like it's an out-continuity, non-essential book. It makes it feel like it's just its own thing. Sure. That's what I'm saying. It makes it feel like you're like, okay, I thought this was going to be bigger and have more ramifications. It's not. You're just telling your little story, and it's not been hitting enough for that. And
hopefully it does. I still want to love this book, so hopefully it does find its pacing. Exactly. We still have 7 issues for this book until it's over, so hopefully it can find where it wants to be and to start knocking it out of the park.
And it's weird because a lot of the other books that we do, like I said, why are we doing this? Why? Don't really think of dropping this because it doesn't really do enough for me to even.
I haven't thought about dropping it until now.
Oh, really?
Because it's just the same thing over and over again.
Oh, I thought it was. One guy has a police like siren thing, like a light on his head. Do you see that guy? He's got like a light on his head. Very odd bunch of people here. But again, are we going to go and do this book of like, oh man, Lighthead? Like, are we going to do nonsense? Well, we'll see. One guy has big bat ears but looks like Spock. But yeah, 6.5 for me. But we'll go off now. We're going to go and stop for a minute. We're going to come back with some mail, and then we have one book after that.
Mail, check out what you got now. Get your postcards, birthday cards, eBay or stock cards. I get it while it's hot now. If a letter makes you wetter, then a better ready, better it's mail.
And it is time for the mail. And if you want to be part of the mail section of the podcast, used to be a lot of mail sections on the podcast. Some people were reminiscing about that.
Sections.
Some people were reminiscing earlier this week about the idea of having 4 mail sections, each with like 10 mails. It was crazy. I did go back and look at one of those podcasts that we had that were like 12, 13 hours long. Legit, like 3 hours were mail. That's crazy. That is just insane. But if you want to be part of that, maybe get back to that, Eric. Maybe we'll bring back the rant and rave. Who knows? Who knows, Eric? But also, I did hear some people this week. Somebody told me, and I did hear another person say, like, everybody's getting involved with, man, it'd be cool to have a call-in show. Remember, we were going to do that. We ended up having to do the rant and rave because we couldn't. But all we wanted to do was hang up on people. That's all we were going to do the whole time. It would have been hilarious. But you email us in with your mail. That's the only way Eric will allow it. And it is Weird Science, dccomics@gmail.com. Just like Jeremy. Jeremy is back with another mail, and he says, how's it hanging? Low and loose. Mine's more to the... I was thinking of the idea that it would be like through a mirror.
Are hard.
Yeah, I was like, thinking, mine's to the right. There you go, Eric. There you go. I'm a little right-leaning, as they say.
Okay.
I apologize for not having sent an email the last couple of weeks. Last week was fine because we don't really read the mail during the Patreon-only show. Life has been its usual busy self, and the more pleasurable things in it, such as thinking about and writing to the best comics podcast on the planet. See, that's what he was doing. He was writing some other podcast, I guess. Oh, he meant ours. Oh, my. Have had to take back seat. I swear, guys, something's wrong here. My kids are grown up. I should be sitting in a recliner with my feet in slippers naturally, up, reading, thinking, and writing. What the hell is going on? Do you have like a pipe? You got the pipe going and stuff? And do you think you'll ever smoke a pipe at any point?
Absolutely not.
No, you won't. Not a water pipe or something like that, you fucking piece of crap. Anyway, it's a bank holiday. It's a bank holiday, Eric. So I'm taking my chance while I can. I was going to make a joke about a bank holiday. The only thing I could think of is the idea of it's like a holiday for people like shooting snook.
You took like the worst idea to try to make a joke of. It's a bank holiday, right? Okay. Well, what are we gonna do with that? What kind of jokes are we making that?
Snooker, Eric. Snooker. Is that holiday that you sit down at the river in the bank? Right? Is that it? I've just started listening to this week's Patreon-only podcast. And by the way, I told Eric that we'd mentioned it. I forgot all about it at the beginning. If you are somebody who wants to hear what we talked about last week on the No Limitations Patreon-only Pretty Low Gym show, all you have to do is go over to the Patreon. Every level you can get that, along with each week. Each week you get early access to each week's show as well. Good stuff as usual. Why does that feel like an insult?
Because you're insane, but for some reason I felt it too.
Good stuff like that feels like it's like
usual.
Good stuff as usual. It's nothing, really to talk about, but it's good. That DC spends time correcting continuity errors, missteps that no one else really cares about, while leaving whole swaths of continuity-related questions unacknowledged is kind of funny. That was kind of a theme last week of trying to, maybe, that's what we kind of got of, okay, somebody's going to complain about the idea that there's a quarantine on Earth, so I'm going to have to throw in a line that, hey, I was the one, Amanda Waller, who took down that for 25 minutes. So, like, you didn't need to do that. I suppose, and Mark Russell got
Mark Russell.
Yeah, I had to deal with some Mark Russell books this week. He ended up having a Blood Hunt tie-in. It's an anthology book that he's in.
Is it topical?
It's the same shit. I told you about it. It's you end up having Hawkeye, and even then I said, oh, it's Hawkeye, get this. And you're like, ooh, is he Ronin? Is he doing this? No. He's got a handlebar mustache.
Oh,
and he's
shit.
And he's in New York City while there's vampires. And the big thing at the end, oh, no. We're not going to arrest you.
Even though he was in Marjapur before.
Yeah, Marjapur. We're not going to get you, international, wanted guy. We're going to go and get this.
International man of archery.
This gyro cart is making bad gyros. We got to deal with that because, New York.
Yeah, that's awful.
Bullshit. Unlike you, I kind of like him. I know Jeremy does kind of like Mark Russell. We won't hold that against them. Would you hold me against you? Despite our politics being widely different, I can recognize his skills as a writer. And these are the type of things when they're like, listen, you just don't quite get Riley Rossimo's art. I'm like, I get it all right. I'm the kisser.
I get a lot of things.
Yeah, we could have it. You don't get it because you'd never buy it. We could do with some decent satirists right now. I think that I am a bit of a satirist there, right? Isn't that the people who like getting pain? Isn't that what he's talking about? I thought so. I don't like that. I told you I have a weird play that I get, like, I think, I'm trying to say this and not be so dirty. It'll end up being one of those old
He
meals.
likes watching S&M. He doesn't want S&M against him.
I like leather, but I don't like any sort of rough stuff. It's weird. I just don't like the rough stuff. I'm a good boy. But just one that has a leather king here. But this one,
I like
I'm
to watch it
steering
from
well,
afar, though.
clear.
With
No,
binoculars.
I don't even like that. I don't even like the pain stuff. That just, nothing about that. And I really don't like the scat stuff. And I do mean the singing. It throws me off. When people are doing scat, there's no like rhyme or reason to it, and it ends up making my head spin. You know, like that. And anytime I do it, it's more in a rhythm. Like, I hate when they do
I like
really
that you started
crazy
whispering for it. You know, like the
Well, it's always because of that. Because I see you're like in the Smoky Cat. Like that. Can I just keep doing that?
I'm telling you, Maynard Krebs is out there snapping his finger to it like
he's
I dig that
nuts.
the most.
Commenting on a story dealing with probably the hottest political topic the West is facing in the middle of a full-on culture war would almost be as stupid as writing the thing in the first place, Eric. I have read it, by the way, but you will never know what I think about it. My take is really not that dissimilar to yours. Now, he says that, to be honest. Which one of us? Because
Exactly.
you like that. I see the game he's playing. It's like he's there and he's like,
Wink, wink, Jeremy, I know.
I will, though, give some thoughts on DC writers in general. The news that Jeff Johns is handing over the reins of JSA to a new writer after issue 12 prompted some discussion on Slack, and someone, Trevity thinks, mentioned that comics is an industry in which writers fail upward. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I hope that Trevitt's like, I didn't say that. But he's kind of right at that point.
Trevitt did it.
But they fall upward for reasons. I suspect a writer's ability to deliver a script on time and cooperate with editorial policy, assuming such a thing exists at DC without too much complaining, influences some of the decisions we see. And I'd imagine that the JSA decision will be no different. Jeremy was gone for a bit, and he wasn't at the point where it was a big thing that we talked about over and over, is that why would Teenie Howard keep getting work, and why is she on these books? And really the answer, everybody had told me, she's a nice person, she's on time, and does not cause, but like if she has a problem with the idea of like, hey, is this 9 Lives thing a good idea? She's not going to ask anybody. She's going to do it. Like, they don't need her to ask, just do. And unfortunately, that leads to some weird things. But she's supposedly like really nice and is on time. That's about it. I'm one of those, Eric. You know I'm never on time, so I'm saying I'm nice. As you know, I've been reading a fair bit on the app over the last few weeks. My favorite newish book at the moment, hands down, is Mark Waid's Batman and Superman, World's Finest. And I think that it is a disservice not mentioning Dan Mora in that sense. It's so much fun, at least partly because it's written by someone who obviously knows and loves the DC universe, and perhaps more importantly, is writing his stories in an idealized version of DC's
didn't he
past.
call it Metamazo?
Yeah, and then Jeremy, you have to, if you listen back a little, if you ever run across the idea of us talking about that book, and anytime I bring up the continuity of it, and Eric gets so mad because Mark Waid did try to explain it on the site. It
doesn't make sense.
And it was worse. It made everything worse. Means he can have fun. Like Jeremy realizes. Even, it's very obvious. It's an idealized, it's a different version. He's combining cool things together.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine. But once you then have that, how then do you end up tying into events in the game? It doesn't make sense.
Why is Shazam the same age that he is now?
Yeah.
All them years back when Dick Grayson was still the Robins.
It's true. And then when he talks about that, I think of the Devil Nezha, one of my favorite parody songs, Eric. I'll never be able to play it again. We'll have to wait till No Limitations for that. Of the newer crop of writers, his favorite is Philip Kennedy Johnson and Jeremy Adams. So those are probably the two better ones of the newer things. Johnson's War World stuff is very good, and the first 2 issues of Green Lantern impressed me with some great characterization of Hal. He is a bit borderline creepy. Yes, he is. Shutting Carol's fiance in the airplane bathroom. Okay. He did mention, he got a hold of me. He's like,
he doesn't take no for an answer.
It's funny. He started reading the Green Lantern because we said you should read some Jeremy Adams stuff. And he started reading. He's like, are you telling me that they had the stupid night terrors and it kind of cut that off? And I'm like, oh, yeah. But we like the night terrors.
Best night terrors is the Green Lantern.
I told him that. And only because it just made Hal a badass, and that's what we wanted.
And it looked great.
Remember that? It was like, you ain't scaring me. I'm scaring you, is what he said.
Got construct chainsaws going to places to
It's
give a
pretty
horror
good.
movie.
Yeah, I like that one. Says he is borderline creepy. He says, although I'm not 100% sure why Earth is quarantined, which is mentioned on the cover but never properly explained in the book, the John Stewart backup written by Johnson impressed me. You and Eric, well.
Hey, what are you talking about? The thing is, you started liking it once I explained it to you.
I don't know what you're talking about. I actually have been on the line of saying I don't like Ellie, or with that book. No, I do like it, but I needed you to explain it to me. I'm a dummy. Not everybody has their own personal Eric Shea.
Well, the thing is, I get it, because the first time I read it, I didn't care for it because I didn't understand why we're doing stuff that was based on a dream world and Dark Crisis. But once you put it all together, it's still like the premise is still heavy-handed to get to where you need to be. But once I reread it, I'm like, you know what, this is pretty good.
What is your take? It's almost like from the Shazam book earlier. If I have something to tell Jeremy, but I know it would hurt him, is it my duty to tell him, or should I just avoid it and not tell him?
You heard him hard.
Okay, I'll hurt him. What you should do, Jeremy, if you want to learn more about it, is go read Jeffrey Thorne's Green Lantern book. He was gone when that was happening. That thing was a wreck.
Bad.
I heard him real bad, but you have that John Stewart stuff has a lot to do with that.
Go read Mosaic, too.
Yeah, while you're at it, try to find that.
Find it. Yeah.
I was going to say, like, really? You can't find it. But a lot of the stuff that Philip Kennedy Johnson, and when we were reviewing the book, that's one of my biggest complaints. And one of the things that I think is a plus and a minus for Philip Kennedy Johnson, he really wants to honor what came before him, whether it needs to be or not, and he'll tie things in, and kind of takes too long at some points. Also, he likes lore. Zod.
His own lore.
Yeah, he likes his own lore. He has a new book, a indie book this week. It was a little rough. I wanted to like it. I liked it, but it was a little rough. It didn't make the best stuff, I'll tell you that, Eric. He continues with it, left him wondering, and says, my first DC comic book purchase was Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, 251. I had no idea who anyone was, but still managed to enjoy it. I'm getting a bit of that vibe with the Revenant Queen and Lantern Shepherd here. Yeah, Jeremy, me and you both. I had my personal Eric Shea. Now I think I'm kind of on board, and I know that I love Ellie. I've read a lot of nonsense. The first couple of issues of the Dawn of DC Hawkgirl mini were a bit silly, although I quite like the weird-looking villain. Verpecula? Is that who it was?
Vulpecula, yes.
Vulpecula. And at least that stuff. The new Outsiders book has made me want to reread Planetary, and probably in the way of you actually want something good, right? You know what I'm saying?
It's like, why should I read this when I can go back and reread Planetary?
So some good has come out of that. I've got things to say about that book. If I had the time, I'd do a comparison of issue 1 and the first issue of Planetary, something that me and Eric both talked about, too.
Yep.
But the conclusion is that Ellis's book is vastly superior to its imitator is so obvious that hardly needs to be said. I said that the thing with, Lansing and Kelly, they're chameleons, they are. And any book that they get on, they try to ape, like, the best thing, which kind of could be, but they don't have their own style. Still, like I said, with the Spurrier Flash book, failures can be interesting as successes, so probably I'll stick with it and occasionally bug you guys about it. That's okay. We'll be talking about it.
Don't you dare bug me about the Flash.
We're trying to talk about it, and I think he's like Flash. Both of those. Jeremy, I'm just telling you, you want to talk to us about Cy Spurrier's Flash or Lansing and Kelly's Outsiders, you better do it quick, because I don't think those things are lasting that long. I was going to write a paragraph or two on how DC might improve its writing talent going forward, but I've just depressed myself, so I'll leave it there. I know Jim's optimistic.
In order to improve the writing talent, you first have to improve the editorial talent.
Yeah. And get somebody that is a caretaker for the characters in the books, and also maybe get somebody like Scott Snyder had that workshop type deal. You know, that we got such hits out of that, like Marguerite Benet, and I just heard something that I thought somebody told me, like Tim Sheridan might have been. It's some weird thing, but they also got James Tynion, so everybody loves him. It says, I know Jim's optimistic about Absolute Power. I am. I think you are too, right? You're optimistic.
Yeah.
I actually was asked. I was actually asked today on a show, like almost like a pointed question. Like they thought with their back. Oh, so what? You're looking forward to Absolute Power? My answer was yes, I am.
Yes.
They didn't know what to say. I'm like, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It was a discussion. I was going to bring it up earlier, and then I thought...
We have a lot of interesting build-up, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
It was involved in the idea of some people not reading Mark Waid. And I said, when I was talking to these people, I said, anybody can have their own reasons why they don't do anything. That's fine. I'm not going to, throw shade at you, but just because I'm reading it, I just need good books. There's not a lot out there. And so, yeah, I am looking forward to Absolute Power, but it probably is a concern from DC, like you said about the Shazam book, that maybe people won't get involved. But we already saw. I mean, just the idea, not to get fully into this, but anybody who was surprised at what Mark Waid says, you're not paying attention. He says the
Seriously.
same things.
It's been a long time coming.
When that World's Finest came out, it was so good that people were willing to say, okay, I will, look the other way and read it. And then he said stuff again, but it was the same stuff that he always said. And then they had to make their stand again, which, again, that's their deal. I'm looking forward to Absolute Power, so I hope it's good. DC, and I must admit that what I've heard of it sounds promising. Also, it really does seem to get the song juices going there for the last.
Sure does.
Right about. I hope that. I don't know if what you think is in Absolute Power, there's somebody in that book that doesn't want their balls touched. I hope it does give DC the shot the American knows what I'm talking. He's smiling right now.
I'm shaking my head.
Are you shaking your head because of what I actually said, or shaking my head that nobody knows what we are talking about?
By what you said.
Okay. We shall, as always, see. He's saying he's going to give it in hopes it is a shot. And seriously, right now, again, the sales numbers aren't definitive. You get kind of a glimpse. You get a look. Holy crap, these last month, did you see those numbers and the rankings?
I never looked at the numbers.
Eric, there's not a DC book in the top 20.
Oh, I did see a headline of that.
Yeah, it's Gray Wakasashi's Tea House. Go and check that out. He has a really good video about it. It's just that idea. I was too lazy to do a video, Eric. It's bad and it's desperate. And I even sent the idea, oh man, Poison Ivy, which we were always told, oh man, that doesn't seem to be doing good. Birds of Prey, which makes sense. That's not doing great. They need something. And I hope that this Absolute Power not only gives a shot in the arm during the event, but actually gets people excited to maybe get a new status quo and some new number ones. I don't know what it is. I think me and you both would say things, even the books that we like, but a lot of these they feel a little stale. You need something going on. And I say stale because a lot of them are in a holding pattern or changing up to go. Right, and that's what I think is the issue. Thanks again for everything you do, which is a lot. And for providing, I don't know why. I like them French fry potatoes. And for providing the soundtrack to my drive to and from. Well, I come French fry potatoes. He listens to us on his way to and from work. Hopefully he has a longer drive, right? Not for him, but so he can listen to all of this nonsense. Keep it weird. All the best, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jeremy.
And again, anybody who wants to email, and you can email if you don't agree with something we said, you think Eric's a jerk.
What Jeremy said.
What Jeremy said, or what Trevor said. I mean,
Fuck that guy.
Trevor with that fucking hot take there, right? And if you want to go and say, email, we don't push those aside. We talk about it. Unless you really dig into me, and then I might, change it out.
Oh, I lost it. Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, what? I said there was email. This is the thing, and why I'd like to say why we do it, but it's because we're kind of lazy, but we don't read the mail usually until we go to the show, so we have no idea, and that kind of leads into the fresh takes. Unlike that Trevor, that guy really was giving it to people. Hot guys. I wish I had the hot take. Yes, but that is it for the mail. Thanks, Jeremy, and the email is WeirdScienceDCComics@gmail.com. Don't put the pause in there; it won't work, Eric. But with all that, we have one more book to do. We're going to do it hard. Real hard.
So fucking hard.
It's going to be so hard, Eric, like that big rig. We're going to be back in a moment with Poison Ivy.
She was a smart girl, didn't say much, fell under the spell of Woodrue. He was a bad guy, should have had a hunch of what he was planning to do. They got down, if you know what I mean. Next thing you know, Pam was totally green. And all this made her into a eco-terrorist, environmentalist. He made her this way, and who am I to say if she's a hero or if she's a villain? She hit the road, she was off to the city, made Gotham her brand new home. And when Batman got in the way, she hit that jerk with the pheromones. It's all because Batman didn't see he shouldn't get between Ivy and the Green. And all this made her into a eco-terrorist, environmentalist. They made her this way, and who am I to say if she's a hero or if she's a villain?
Ah, yes, sir. A little impromptu ending there. That's something you haven't heard because at one point we had a song that you you rejected. Well,
I rejected.
Yeah, the Blue Beatles song. And so when I was editing the podcast, I had to come up with something quick. And so I did that in like 3 minutes and put it on the podcast and didn't love it. So it was suggested that I could play it. I forgot. Remember I said I don't have...
Well, is this or Jenna from HR?
Yeah, and I can't play that. I like that one. But so I ended up, and I believe it was I Love Punchline who likes the song. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. But the thing is, at that point, you can tell there's a weird edit to end it. The song goes on for like 5 minutes. It's so long. But I figured, oh, well. And then I'm like, oh, Eric.
Unlike that General Zod song.
No. That just feels like it goes on forever. But here we are. And obviously, we're going to be dealing with Poison Ivy. I'm kind of upset that I can't do the parody stuff because, boy, they just have named Janet that, like, if I'm Janet, I'm like, I'm not Janet from HR Assholes. You know me enough to call me just Janet, but...
The joke's gone on too long.
Yeah, I mean... If you're going to have her as a normal character in here, kind of like a Kevin that we really did like in the end, really in that, even have that play with Solomon Grundy and you kind of have some jokes, but even that didn't work well for me by the end.
You got some jokes?
No, he kind of funny at the one point when there's like, Solomon Grundy, because he's dead, right? He's dead, Eric. But this book feels like it's dead a bit. And I saw, again, those numbers didn't seem like it's doing as well as it was. And I don't know why people would bail that have been reading it all along, or maybe not many people were, and it was sparing covers. I don't know. I say it every time we talk about it. You were more into it at the beginning. I kind of got involved because you were getting all excited. And then next thing you know, boom, it's changed like 6 times since then. To then get to this year one. We have the Lamia, but even then, at one point I thought it was gone, then it wasn't, then it's there. And you get this here where you have the year one that we thought, okay, well, that might do something.
Where's
it kind of ended weird, right? And then we get to this, Gardner. Like everything ends up being like, oh yeah, this will be cool. And never ends up fully doing what we think it would. And then we get back to this, and I'm like, okay, plant zombie apocalypse deal. And we're dealing with other weird ways and thing. And then all of a sudden it looks like, and people lost their mind by the end. But when I read it, I'm like, okay, I don't really see this as happening as much as you're saying, but give us the credits and we'll talk about it in full.
Poison Ivy number 22, written by G. Will Wilson, with art by Haining, Arif Prianto, and Hassan Atsmain El-Hal. And the thing about this series is, like you said, I liked it at the beginning, but I think it's been struggling a bit. I got excited again once we got back to Gotham and the idea of the year one. It just felt like a thing now that, like, the way this comic plays out, it's a lot like the pacing that we have in Kneel Before Zod, where you have nothing happen until the end. And I feel like a lot of comics are doing that, even the Birds of Prey this week. But that was like, less than in my mind, just because you can never understand what's happening in the nothing that's happening.
Parts of that, right? Yeah, at least I know there's a fight going on here. But
exactly.
Still.
This is less of a problem as Birds of Prey has. But it's just the idea is like, all right, before we went to year one, we had the reincarnation, the rebornness of the Floronic Man, Jason Woodrue, just ripped himself out of Pamela's stomach. And then we had her on a near-death experience where she remembered her year one becoming, Poison Ivy and stuff like that. But now we're back. We're back in the main continuity, the main timeline of what we're doing in this series. And it's just Jason Woodrue coming back. And because we just got, done with the year one, all we can do, for some reason, is just bad writing in my mind, is talk about their year one experience. Like they've had nothing to do. It's like this, okay, we just got done with year one. We can only talk about year one to reference that stuff that we just dealt with of the mind.
And the thing is, we were there. We saw it. I don't need you to do that. And when you go back again, like the zombie, that becomes kind of the goofy, almost, it's funny. Like you said, it's like Zod. But then that part becomes like Shazam, where there's just this fight that you don't really care. And then you have this big Woodrue looks like hell. I mean, holy moly. And just going back and forth with it.
Well, even the idea of Woodrue being reborn, and he is like the Lamia spores itself now, and he can control the Lamia zombies that Pamela made because he made it first. But now it's because it's mixed with her DNA. She can control him, but she can't control him against Woodrue. But the linchpin of this whole thing is like, well, maybe I can't control them to go against you because you can control them. But if I let them come after me, that means that they can go after you. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, and even at one point you end up where, you want to have some fun with it, I guess. But Woodrue's like, oh, man, there are kids. And you know what kids do when they're teens? They go after their mama. And then later she's like, I'm their mother, so they'll listen to me. I'm like, what should you do? What should you do? And it really is like the dialogue is just back and forth saying the same thing. kind of yelling, but not really doing much, so that by the end, like you said, the big play is this issue has one thing and one thing on its mind is at the end, you're going to, make people think that possibly Pamela and Woodrow are both dead.
Yeah, Pamela is willing to sacrifice herself in order to take Woodrow down. Is that the case? No, because it's an ongoing.
Well, and it's an ongoing, and I've read the solicits, and the thing is, the funniest thing, while I'm reading it, I got the solicit that I had done recently. I ended up doing the solicit podcast and I did a video on it. And so when I did that, I said to you, "Oh God, wait till you see this. They got this name for Woodrow that is so ridiculous and whatever." I was waiting for it the whole time in this issue, not realizing it was from the solicits coming up. And then when I thought that, I'm like, oh, so what I'm saying to myself, this don't matter. I mean, you're doing this. And the idea that anybody is going to be reading this, and at the end, especially with a character like Poison Ivy, who actually even says at points, like, I really can't die. Woodrow says it as well. You got the green. The idea that you think that at the end, people losing their mind, how dare you do that? Like, really? You really think she's dead and not coming back in an ongoing series that has this past anyway? It just seems kind of goofy. So that even got thrown, kind of out of whack for me because people had spoiled that, but they didn't. I thought we'd see her completely destroyed. And then somebody like, I don't know, some scientists come out. We don't even know who the guy is. He's like, I can't detect any poison ivy here. And then he walks away because I don't know how you could.
There's no human DNA here.
Don't know how you could ever really give the idea of she's gone because we've seen her gone this series itself.
Well, that's the thing is, I can only assume because we're at issue number 22. We've done nothing but Lamia spore shit this entire time, whether it makes sense. Because even in this issue, she powers herself up with the Lamia spores, which Woodrow's power it comes from as well in this, in his reborn nature. But she's like, look, he doesn't know how this works. He's never understood the green like I do. So I can use my power that's beyond his imagination for how he can use it. So she powers herself up for this big old fight to end all, be all, which really doesn't matter because she's just going to have zombies attack her anyway, which will also attack Woodrow. But she's also complaining that she doesn't have the connection to the green anymore. And I have to assume if they do go and destroy both Woodrow, these Lamia zombies, their children, destroy her and destroy him, what we'll have is go back to status quo where the green makes her reborn like Woodrow did to the Lamia himself.
And here's the thing, I think that in this, because she's saying even, like, I'm going to die to kill Woodrow, Woodrow's not going to be dead either. And I do think that one of the things where I think made me kind of laugh at this cliffhanger is that one of the things where you could, if you're going to end the series and you want to put things back in the toy box, whatever, you can just have her die into the green, and then when the next person comes in, she's reborn. Like you just said, that would be a great way to end and then start something else, and then the new person can really deal with that concept how they want to.
Well, it's just not deal with Lamia anymore if the same writer stays on.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could do it, but I don't even think she's going to be dead for a second. I think she's going to be fine. I think Woodrow will be gone, but I've seen the solicits, and
Lamia
I
zombies love Mama. Never hurt Mama.
Here's the thing. I only, and the solicit that I know of talking about the idea is where they say, I look, Doctor, I wanted to say dear, Dr. Jason Woodrow, the Floronic Man, a.k.a. Fluoro.
Fluoro. I say the thing is, Floronic Man has had a bunch of different names. At one point in the past, I think we talked about before, his name might have been Fluoro.
Yeah, but we don't need 80 names in this. And the idea where I think that what's going to happen here is that he's going to be reborn, and he's going to be worse. And she's going to end up like the idea, I took care of him, and now he's come back, and he has more powers, he's more involved in this, that, the other thing is what I would think. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what it is.
See, what I would do at this point in time, because of the whole Lamia thing, and this, again, it's not talking about anything that has to do with this issue per se, but just where we might end up from the ending to this whole thing. The Lamia spores always felt weird because of what Scott Snyder introduced during his Swamp Thing run, the idea where you had the red and the green for all this time. He also introduced the idea of the gray, which is the fungi and the mushrooms and stuff like that, which also feels like it should be a part of this Lamia spores. Like, if you're going to have Poison Ivy die here, like her connection to the green, what limited version she still has of that, you have the green resurrect her, and maybe hey, we need an avatar for the gray. Hey, Jason Woodrow, you're reborn as well. I was
thinking the deal. I mean, the idea of Jenna from HR, she's like a fungus in this fucking book. Just let her sacrifice herself. She's now the gray. You can have that.
This whole idea, though, even in the dialogue, though, she has to say everything she's thinking. We could just have narration boxes that feel like we can see what she's thinking instead of her saying out loud. Because she's talking to Killer Croc, the idea he says, us lowlives are always in the end, always in the end. And she's like, really, I believe you. It's funny. With the world being the way it is now, heroes don't make me feel safe anymore. I'm like, Who says that? Like,
I
who
know
are
who
you,
says
Janet from HR?
Janet from HR is G. Will Wilson. It's an insert character for her to talk in the thing, and where you ended up having originally.
There were so many things a hero can't stop. That's the monsters who make me feel safest.
She's the good person, the Janet. Usually the HR, the HR are pretty good, right? I guess, unless you're handsy, then you're like, why are they attacking me? But it's because you're handsy. You had at one point Janet, and I did mention already, Kevin in the what's it called, in the Harley Quinn, the Stephanie Phillips Harley Quinn. Kevin was there to be the ground, to be the idea of Harley. That's not right. And then she was kind of learning from, but that's what you ended up.
Redemption arc.
That's why, and that's why Janet was there. She was with Poison Ivy to show that humanity. Her time is done. I mean, Janet should hitchhike back to wherever the fuck she's going. We don't need her anymore.
Show the humanity. All we had her do is tag along. Pamela banged her, Harley banged her, and we can't tell each other about it.
That's the humanity, Eric. I mean, humans, they like to fuck. I don't know what you want from here. But in that, isn't that what she does here? The human. Oh, I think that the villains are more. It's like the woman who thinks everything has the silver lining wherever she is. You know that the minute that she goes off, she's talking shit on these guys telling the other thing. But the idea she's there as that spokesperson of, hey, I'm going to ground this, but never really does because she is a joke. And when you keep calling her, even that where you have...
Stand back, Janet from HR.
Relax, Janet from HR. I'm like, you're in here, and I'm thinking the idea where if you wanted to show that Ivy was already teetering over into the other deal to have, listen, the Janet from HR, but it's not. It's just Ivy, and she's smiling, and she likes Janet. I'm like, you don't call her Janet from HR. And she's like, I would call her her last name. I don't know what it is. It's like when my dad used it. My kids would come in. We had 5 kids, and they come in. Hey, Chief. Hey, Sport. Hey, Ace.
Hey,
it would just go down the line, and then he'd repeat them. I'm like, they ain't twins, Ace and Ace. Because he couldn't remember shit. And, unfortunately, he was losing it a bit, Eric, so I feel bad. That's for you, Daddy, you asshole. But you end up where even when you have Woodrow, he becomes almost like a cartoony Looney Tunes villain at one point. I'm like, what are you doing here? And it feels all extended. It feels like everything is stretched to its limit. And then
their fight's not interesting either.
No.
It's like, okay, Poison Ivy becomes all powered up. She grabs a rope and she just rips the plant arm away. Like, I'm tired of your power check. Well, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to sink into the swamp, into the mycelial freaking center of things, and I'm going to go behind it. I'm going to jump up here, and he's going to knock me back. And it's just, the fight is not interesting because you don't even understand the idea of this Lamia power and what it involves. Even the idea of reborn Jason Woodrow, you don't understand. You're just like, oh, he's back through the ripped belly of Pamela Isley. He's still fine somehow, but he's just the monster man, like he was before, but different.
Yeah, and then you have the Mycelium Network, and it's go. And then you add one of the things that I thought was odd, and it has been, but it does play it, pretty straight and narrow, is the idea that a lot of these are infected people, but it doesn't look like they're coming back. I mean, these people are done.
To split up with fungi.
Yeah, the whole deal of that. But even then, you're trying to twist it into, I guess these are the children of me and what's it's like, come on, just stop. And it's to the point with the Lamia stuff. Like you said, at least it is carrying it all. I'm kind of bored with it.
It feels like we keep for a long time.
We keep getting the same and then it goes away, and then we get the concepts again. And I don't,
because the Lamia spore for the initial arc of this whole thing that was supposed to be the entire series with the suicide mission aspect, this new spore that's going to kill the entire world. I'm like, now that's cool. Here we are, issue number 22. We're still dealing with it, and I still don't. And it's evolved the wild strain of this whole thing. I don't understand. It becomes different every time it comes up because the play of this book, and we said when it was a spore that would just kill everybody, that was fine, and that was even taken away from her. And no, Jason Woodrow was doing that, and it didn't do what you thought it was going to do because Jason Woodrow said so.
This is a weird book that we kept being told that it was, and it did. It got extended twice. And so you end up doing this, but each time it dumbed itself down a bit, or it changed, and then you get back to Lamia, and it's not quite as hard-hitting as it was before. It's boring, and there's not really a story to it. I mean, you come back out of that year one, yeah, we get it. And this is why that year 1 and 2, I mean, we both didn't like the end. It kind of flopped at the end. You really didn't do what you should have. But when you had Woodrow, he's, manipulating, and he's doing this and that. Okay, I get what you're trying to do, but we kind of know he's a bad guy. That really didn't have any sort of meat on the bone. It just ended showing you why, or maybe a different spin of almost like a Me Too type thing to get him as a bad guy, but he's already a bad guy. You come back here and you realize you didn't have much to go with even when you come back here, because then it is, they're our kids, and hey, they're not, and their mom, and and then at the end it's just like, oh no, I have to sacrifice myself. By then I was I was kind of checked out. I was like, okay, I just wanted to get to the end and see her die. And then she's just laying there like she's crowd surfing at a fucking Pearl Jam concert. I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, I'm telling you, that's what it really looks like,
it
too.
It just becomes something at this point in time, like, let's say in, like, Return of the Living Dead 2, where you have Tom Matthews talking to Suzanne, says, like, if you love me, you'll let me eat your brains. And it's like, okay, you can eat my brains, and you hear an apple chomp.
There you go. I just think, and they're grabbing her boobs and stuff like that. That shit got
or even
real, right?
Suzanne Quigley, like, not Suzanne Quigley, I can't even think of her first name now, but Quigley's her last name in Return of the Living Dead 1, where she's just overrun by all of those zombies just pulling her down and eating her.
See, if you're going to
Linnea Quigley.
I'm going to change mine now, because actually when I look at it, it looks like Woodstock 99. Her shit went bad.
Oh, that's a problem, yeah.
Yeah, there she is. And it looks like all those people in that sewage water and shit, they're all coming at it. That's the Lamia spores. They're grabbing boobs. Jenna from HR should be there and like, no, touch it. She's HR. But you end up even the idea,
like, look,
it's just nothing.
And that's the thing. You want the idea where this is a Poison Ivy book. The big fight between Jason Woodrow and Poison Ivy should be the focus of it. It's just not interesting to the point where you want to see Solomon Grundy, Killer Croc, and sadly even Jenna from HR do something. But even when they're focused, they're just locked inside of a cabin, just saying niceties to each other about how the monsters are the right ones and the heroes are the... But like Solomon Grundy, just like, well, let's block the door with Solomon Grundy or block the window with Solomon Grundy. It's very boring having them here when them being here should have been something that was really cool.
And the first bit, I'm telling you, this was the only thing that worked in it for that. And again, when I say Janet from HR, I'm making jokes or whatever.
She shouldn't be here.
But you're not even giving Janet she's never really acted like HR. Like, you're doing this, like, makes the character mean something. She's just there to bang and hang. Actually,
honestly, yeah.
That's what I'm here for. I'm going to do that every time I enter a room. Hey, guys, I'm here to bang and hang, right? And they're like, why are you saying that, Dad?
Call the
I'm
police.
like, stop. When you end up where at that point, at the beginning, you have what we like. It's the Chewbacca. It's everything where...
Killer Croc knowing what Solomon Grundy's talking about is great.
I love, and yeah, Woodrow shows he's talking crap, and Croc says, I thought that guy was dead. Solomon Grundy. Good point. That's funny. And so then when we're going, and then it just ends up being Solomon Grundy going to different places saying died on a Saturday. No. I really, when he's there blocking the window, and he looks like and they're taking a vet, like, I fucked on a Friday, something like that I want something new from it. Like, he realizes he's screwed, right? But they don't even do that. You just end up born on a Monday. Christmas on okay, we get it. You're blocking these
Saturday.
things. Did nothing. You should have been continuously where, you end up where Croc's Grundy, you got to help. You got to get in front. Solomon Grundy, listen, don't backtalk me, bitch. Get to that window. Solomon Grundy.
I don't know if I needed to overplay the Chewbacca Han Solo, but the one time we had it, that was fun.
No, I'd like it one more, right? Or they end up where, and here's the joke. How about this? Then they're like, I don't know anybody who can help. Solomon Grundy. And Janet goes, oh, well, what's he saying? I don't know what the hell he's saying. He's just saying his name because he wants to go, but now he can't understand it. See, that would have been kind of fun. But you end up where that's just there. And like you said, in the cabin in the woods, being surrounded by an apocalyptic deal of these Lamia spore zombies. Woodrow looks like a giant, like crazy, I don't know, bug of some sort. Like, all they're doing is Janet saying, I think that I always realized that the villains really had the humanity. That makes the monsters who make me feel the safest. I wanted her at that point would have been, you want to have fun? Beheaded. Right there. She says, there are so many things a hero can't stop that it's the monsters who make me feel safe as the guy eats her right there. She's done. Solomon Grundy. And then Croc says, I know, she was annoying. Boom, Eric, it works. I'm telling you, I would have had a lot of fun. But no. And then you have Batman
Shocking.
on a fucking, up on a bridge or a building, and he's like, looking side glances, he says. What the... I just don't get it.
Him and Harley both feel the change in the air with what's going on with Woodrow and Poison Ivy.
Again, they feel the change in the air. What is that? There is a zombie apocalypse going on in that fucking swamp. They've been there. However long this has lasted, and when we were, go away for a bit, Batman don't know shit. This is why he loses Gotham all the time. It just, shit happens and he's humming. I don't mean humming. He's like whistling, driving me nuts. At that point, Harley's just walking down the fucking alley. Get out of town.
She's doing Harley stuff.
What is she doing?
Doesn't matter.
Like,
maybe we know, but we don't read the Harley book anymore.
No, that would be her going down the fucking back alley, backdoor fucking multiverse bullshit. I'm glad we don't read that book. I don't even know if that makes sense because we're not reading it, but I'm very happy about it. Though I love the character. But at the end, you're just like, you did nothing but just meander to get to you only had the cliffhanger didn't even go far to the deal. And
just
that's
like Neil before Zod in my mind. It's like very disappointing because you had this whole idea coming out of the year one, like, oh my God, we're going to pick up after this whole thing. We're back to where Woodrow was like, ripped himself out of the womb of Pamela Isley. He's reborn. He's better than ever. And like, you do have a power contest, like whose dick is bigger with their Lamia powers, but it just isn't going
Woodrow's is probably bigger.
It's just Pamela Isley on the offense, and then the defense comes in, overpowers that, another offense, defense, and it's just like, okay, I'm going to have them kill us both, even though I couldn't have them kill just you. If they kill us both, that's fine somehow.
Even I'm looking at it, and you end up where, Zombie's going to come in and Croc rips his hand off, and then it's like, ew, and then they throw the thing out. I'm like, what are you doing? This book feels like it has no real, when it did look like it had a lot of purpose. And we are still dealing with what's the status quo. How's she going? Even in this, she starts to talk. And I'm telling you, some of the narration starts feeling like we're at the, stretch run end game of like, I just wanted all the power. And I thought that I was this, and now I just want this. I don't know. Maybe that'll be coming soon because, again, a lot of things are stopping or going through changes in September. This is one of those books where me and you often will talk about, but I think you might agree. Like, if this ends, it ends. I don't think you're going to get another creative team on this book if G. Will Wilson gets cut off of it.
Seems to be the way of things for the most part.
They may make
anymore.
her change up a story and continue herself, but I think that this would end. You wouldn't have anybody jump on. This is what they get.
But with the idea, though, that like in this issue itself, she talks about to herself the idea of the deity of the green and what kind of deity is if you pray to. And even when she has herself and Woodrow being attacked by the Lamia spores, talking about we are the green. With the amount of time she's talking about the greenness, I have to think that she's going to go back to her status quo and be reborn in the next issue.
You would think that, and it would be cool if she did kind of, quote unquote, actually die, and then we might get a little idea if she is in the green heaven, my green
because
heaven.
Because the thing is, even with that though,
her status quo is when she comes out.
Yeah, well, that's a problem itself though, because even when she died previously at Sanctuary, when she was brought back, she was more under the green's control. It looked like the way whenever she has like the green pigment to her skin, it's like she's more under the thrall of the green and less Pamela Isley. So I want to see that kind of turmoil and struggle again to show that she's herself, but also under the control of this. Just that inner struggle, I think, could be interesting. Once again, even though we've dealt with it in the past,
and maybe people would enjoy if she was in the green and they actually give her listen, you could be this, that, she has a little journey, or she has to
I want her to fight it out with Levi Kamei for the freaking right of being Avatar.
That ain't happening.
The War of the Green.
That is not happening. The War of the Green. I think that what
and then
ends
you get
up
Al Collin to come in from wherever he is now.
She's always been that weird side deal because oh man, we made a green. Well, what do we do with her? Oh, well, she kind of taps.
She's got a small connection to the green.
She's got a connection, like a whisper and this thing. Well,
it's kind of like Vixen has a connection to the red, but she's not the Avatar like Buddy is or Maxine.
And it's weird too because how great she's written in the Birds of Prey. But usually Vixen, it's cool because she has that connection. We know she does, and they don't bother really delving. You know what I mean? There's never a conflict. You just say, oh, it's Vixen. It has Poison Ivy. They want to try to play it up, but they never do fully. And so it leaves you in that weird place that you want to know, and we want to see. You want the War of the Green.
I want the War of the Green. I want you to bring in Black Orchid, who has connections to the green and the red at the same time.
Janet becomes the gray, right? The gray. I saw that beard recently. You could be the gray.
Stop it.
But overall, again, what I want is a real that I could say. Me and you could both say that's her deal now. That's her connection. Whatever. The idea of villain hero, that's always going to be a gray area, Eric, because of the idea like your beard. But the idea that she is, an eco-terrorist to some, a freedom fighter for so. But I want a more definitive idea of where she stands in the whole universe with the green and stuff. But
even going away from the idea of the gray, I think we will eventually after she's reborn, because you have to have a direction for the series to go somewhere. I would think outside of Lamia spores and Jason.
Is it a
Woodrow.
Rebirth there?
It could be a rebirth, and I would appreciate a rebirth at this point in time because I want her to go back to being who she was before she was split in two at the death of Sanctuary and stuff like that. Get back to something that just feels more like Poison Ivy that you can get behind, that and you've known for a long time, and see where she goes from there.
Maybe the problem before is she didn't quite die because she gave that orchid or she gave that flower.
Well, she was reborn out of that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying maybe because she never really died because it was I don't think they'll deal with that, but the idea of just trying to make it work. But
but, even if you don't deal with the Gray, saying that we reintroduce that into DC Comics, but you would just say the Rot. When was the last time we dealt with Anton Arcane or the Rot? We could do that with Woodrow as well. He could be the new avatar of the Rot.
I mowed the lawn the other day. I was dealing with some rot, Eric, and I don't mean in my yard. I was having some problems. It was hot out. But yeah, we haven't dealt with any of that. Where's the Machine Queen? Where's Trinity, the nuclear girl?
Oh, God.
That's why I don't think I want anything with Leah. Like, shit that happened at the end of that Ram V deal. I don't think it'll ever be explained, but maybe the deal. Man, here's the thing. Where I said if G. Willow Wilson leaves, that I would say, okay, there's no way we have a book. But you do have Ram V, who said that he's hinting at something, a darker book that he's going to be on. He says maybe he does a green book. Maybe we have the green team, but not that one, Eric. This one where you do have a connection and have a thing with Poison Ivy and Levi and dealing with green. I mean, they've had crazy
It could be a really cool story.
Right? They had Fire and Ice, Eric. If they're going to do that, they're letting Planetary be run by those yahoos. Like, that would be kind of cool. I don't know that it would sell, but it'd be kind of neat. But it's Ram V, so it'd probably drive me nuts. A lot of narration.
Me as well.
Just imagine Janet from HR, isn't it, right?
I'm telling you, got to drop Janet from HR. She has to go and lead Gotham.
kills her right away, but maybe that's the thing. Maybe what this is, and the idea I'm thinking, okay, this is the end run, the stretch run. Maybe it is actually just setting up something bigger for Pam to go off, or maybe she joins like a Justice League. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
Wherever we have to go, we got to get her back to a status quo before Gotham City Sirens comes.
Yeah, when she heads out all west. I don't know. That book seems like it's just going to be a bullshit book that really doesn't matter anyway. I mean, it's like 4 issues.
It's big enough to stop the main runs of Catwoman, Harley Quinn, and Poison Ivy.
Those are already being stopped, and they're putting that book out to fill the space, is what's happening. It's the opposite of what we thought. I was told of that specifically, that those books are shutting down because of Absolute Power, but they want something to come out. And that's why they have that as 4 issues, a weekly deal to end that. And then you get to September, which will have maybe a reset of the other things. They don't want that extra issue. It seems to all do with Absolute Power, and that they don't want a lot of books out at the time that aren't tying in. But we'll see. We'll see and maybe that's bullshit. But that's what I was told from the guy. I told you, this guy, he's on it, Eric. He never gives me any bad info, but that's because I thought the same thing. It was like, oh my God, they think this is big. And they're like, no, this was a last second thing that they want. And, when you end up having these like shutdown things, and then they want to throw something out there just to be out there. Like, what was that? The Endless Winter deal at that one point, stuff like that. But
even with that, though, I would think that they'd want to have some kind of status quo for her to be more Poison Ivy for that book.
If you're going to have a new status quo, and that would be where you would cut the line deal, you better have it if you're going to go off and do something new or bigger with it. So I would think that you might be right with that would be the big deal. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with Woodrow. We'll see what happens with her. I hope that it's something that it's not like I can't follow this. It just was kind of boring. And
I agree.
Like somebody might say it's all action. Why? How can it be boring? Well, read this and you'll see. It manages to do that. Sometimes that's
before Zod did the same thing.
Yeah, and if everything is just like, oh, I'm going to fight you, and it's just trash talk back and forth, it's just like, okay, get with it. And then by the end, you see this is all to get what seems to be Woodrow and Pamela dying. What would you give it?
I would give this a 5 out of 10.
I'm giving it a 4.5. I want to give it a little less because I think it should have been more. And this, with the last issue of that year 1, that was disappointing. It feels like this is in a weird holding pattern to get to. Like you said, maybe a new status quo, though, eventually. But that's it.
Old status quo.
Wait a minute. I got to get the song ready. What is your... what's your book of the week?
My book of the week is Batman number 147, which is crazy to me because for that book, you have to suspend your disbelief a lot.
Yeah,
and there's even progression in that book that I don't understand with Robin and what's going on with that. But still, somehow, with all the problems I have, it's still the most interesting book that's coming out of DC Comics this week.
People seem to be energized by it a bit. And me and you, we have that on our Patreon Spotlight. Like I said, we talked about it for about an hour, that one review. We had a lot of fun, and we were really trying to figure out, is Damian now, is it a robot Damian that Damian's being shown, or is he changed, brainwashed, all this? And after we got done, we ended up doing a short video. It's like 10 minutes. Me and you did something quick. It's not anything, it's fully new. And we put that on the YouTube channel. Yeah, so we put it up, and immediately one guy was like, I think that we all can join together, because he's like, thank God you guys didn't know what was going on at that point with David, because he's like, I thought I was either dumb or crazy. I'm like, no, you're just dumb. I said, Eric, I don't know why I told him.
You lost a subscriber.
I didn't say that. No, I said because, he must have the problem. And sometimes you don't want to ask people, like the idea of like, because you think that you're going to live. But I think a lot of people, like anybody who has I think it's this, I think it's that. None of us know. I'm telling you, there's no possible way. And we'll see. And I still swear to God that it's going to be like, Damien's going to be there and go, why do you have a Tim Drake robot? It's going to throw everything out the wazoo. But we'll see. We'll see how it happens. But that's my book of the week as well. I liked it a little more than you, but you did have to suspend some disbelief. It was funny, too, because one of the things that we were talking about in it were like that with Vandal Savage being the commissioner. We're like, you can't even, you have to suspend belief that could be even allowed. And we said, man, Renee Montoya, she's in the crowd. I ended up saying, I was making the video for the deal because then I get panels and whatever. I'm like, she's in the crowd. I sent you, and you're like, she ain't saying shit. Like, why is she just standing there? She looks like she's sad. Like in the so odd.
As a Batman fan, for how long Renee Montoya has been in the series, and also became the Question, people enjoy Renee Montoya a lot. You might want to hear what she has to say in all this.
Yeah, what do you have to say? Now, again, when you see her just there, is this a ploy of her? I don't know. I mean, I guess that's the question.
Is she asking questions?
That's the big question. Even then, I'll tell you one thing. I do like Renee Montoya. We don't really get a ton of her. I don't know that I need her police commissioner. It's okay, but nobody's really done much with it. And when you did, it was that she hated Batman and she don't like masks, and it just felt weird. So with all of that, that's that. But that is the show. Here's what we'll be talking about next week. A couple more books next week. 2 of these, just like every week, will be picked by the badasses of the Get Fresh crew to be on the Patreon exclusive Badass Patreon Spotlight show that comes out every Thursday night, sometimes later, and especially when it's 2 hours long. And it's crazy. It was there. 2 hours of last week. So go over to that Patreon, people. But this is the books that will be coming out, and then we'll give our picks. Action Comics number 1065. I'm looking forward to that. I want to see what's going on with that house at the Brainiacs.
I want to hear the song again.
You want to hear the song again? Somebody complained about the song, and I was very upset. Yeah. I get their complaint, but it just ended up the way. And I'm not going to say what the complaint is. And people be like, you know what? At the beginning of the show, this is my CIA tactics, where I'm like, man, this is going to be a short show. So when it ends up being longer, they think they got the bonus, Eric. I'm not going to tell people that's why I do it, but that's it.
Just makes me angry.
Wink, wink. No, it's just to upset you, because when we worked, I would start doing things like something that should take longer. I'd be like, man, this is going to be quick, and then it would be 5 times as long.
And it would fuck up.
Sometimes it would fuck up sometimes because I'm touching shit I'm not supposed to.
Don't tell me that shit.
Batman and Robin number 9. It's weird. The Flatline stuff and the
Cult of Man-Bat?
And the Cult of Man, like, I can't say that I'm looking forward to that book anymore. I want to see what happens, but I have a feeling Batman's just going to yell, where's Tommy Elliott involved? And then somebody's going to say, why do you have such a hard-on for Tommy Elliott? And then Batman will tell us, and it'll weird us out, just like me and the leather, Eric. So
we used to play grab ass when we were kids. We loved that shit.
We played hide the salami back behind the shed. The Blue Beetle number 9.
We used to play suitcases.
I thought of suitcases the other day. I was sitting there like, ooh, look at that suitcase. I had a problem. I woke up and I almost had I didn't realize I was packing for a trip, but my body did, Eric. I'm like, oh shit, I got the suitcase.
My body.
Nobody even knows what's going on. When I went down the list,
we used to play the game. Don't tell.
That's not appropriate. Oh my goodness gracious! I have to hit the Greta.
How dare you?
When Blue Beetle comes up each week, I'm like, that book's still around. It has been announced it's coming to an end.
Which makes sense.
People, oh man, that's the best book I'm reading. I'm like, you got to read more than one book. I mean, seriously, that book has been a wreck. That's all I have to say about that. Green Lantern number 11, I've already gotten a heads up. Pretty damn good.
I look forward to that, but I feel like you get the heads up of that every time it comes out.
No, it is. It's a guy, Mike, and this guy, he's like living the life, Eric. He's like the Midas touch this guy has, because he ends up, I think this tweet was like 2 days ago. Awesome issue of Green Lantern. I'm thinking, is this guy late? I always do it every time. I'm like, man, he's late. And then I look, I'm like, number 11, you son of a bitch. And then I get mad because I could end up, I used to be able to, we got the review copy so I could pretend that I didn't read. And Can't do that anymore either. So I should get some info from the guy. Hey, Mike, tell me what happened. It's not the guy that gives me the info, though. This is just a guy on Twitter. I do like that he tags us on this, that he says, wait till you guys read it. You're going to love it. It's pretty cool.
I hope that's the case.
Yeah. And he did, and Jeremy Adams liked it. So Jeremy Adams thinks he did a pretty good issue, right? He did it. Outsiders number 7.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, here's my thing. Jeremy's been back for a while, right? Yeah, he's kind of, let's get him to do it. He used to do like the Wildstorm stuff, and he like, I'm gonna convince him. He can't hear this right now, Eric. I have it muted for everybody, and I'm gonna convince him.
A little bit.
I'm gonna convince him. Skip it back down. I'm gonna convince him.
It's gotta be big now that this whole story's been planetary all along. He's fooled. They fooled everybody with this outsider nonsense. Now that we know that the drummer is Chiquita Wagner.
Yeah, I thought it was Tommy Lee. They with all that too. We also have, what is it? The nuclear babies? What do they call them? What
the Century babies.
Yeah, but it's not. What did they call her now? Like they have that new name, the Century. I can't remember. Because they already had a name for the 2000s deal. Like they changed it and they were assholes.
Well, that's the thing. The name of the Century baby, they changed because it used to be somebody in Planetary. I don't remember what the new name is, though, but they've changed this whole continuity of things.
Quantum Gal.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing. Is it the Quantum Baby or the Infinity Baby?
I think it was almost like the idea of like kind of throwing shade at now, like the shitty baby. I don't even think it's a baby. I think it's like, whatever, but I can't remember. You look that up. But yeah. If we get sick of that, though, I think I could convince Jeremy to do it. It'd be pretty cool. Here's another book that was I like. This is fun too. When we get to say Sinister Sons number 4, and all those people are like, you guys are ridiculous. This is going to last for 20 issues. We're like, this is going to be 6 issues and it's done. It is. That was announced. So there's nothing to that book. It's a shame, but yeah, it's just a shadow of a Super Sons book. And that shadow there, the sun has already gone down. This shit, there's not much anymore. It's not like the shadow that gets real long right before. What is it now?
Well, we had before, had Jenny Quantum before, but now it's Jenny Crisis.
That's what it is. Jenny Crisis. Happy Crisis. Merry Crisis. Jenny Crisis sounds so stupid. It sounds like some asshole who everything that happens is a problem. Like somebody's always feeling sick and like that and don't like touch their balls. Like things like
you the Century Baby?
I am. I'm Jimmy Crisis. I did want to be called Jimmy August, but I think now I'm Jimmy Crisis.
Why did you want to be called Jimmy August?
Yeah, it was an inside joke, Eric. You back off. It's because I end up where I didn't know, and everybody laughed at the idea that I didn't. But the guy Eric July that I ended up saying, I just thought that I made a joke about you. Something like, I just thought that's when Eric does this. It's the Sunday. It was stupid. But then they're like, oh, you don't know? And I'm like, no. And then when I'm like, I'm going to be Jimmy August and Sully. But I'm going to be Jimmy Crisis. Jenny
Crisis.
Jenny Crisis. It really feels like, it's like all of a sudden you hear yelling. It's like, oh my God, I think there's bugs in the spaghetti. Like, Jenny Crisis. Shut the fuck up, you're yelling. I say that, Eric. I got to be quiet. That's what Tanya was yelling this week, that we had some old pasta and she thought there were bugs in it. She threw it away and I was pissed. I was really upset. Tanya Crisis. And Suicide Squad Dream Team number 3. I will say one thing. Well, that book where I didn't think it should be big because of Amanda Waller. It's going to be big.
To absolute power.
Fuck, we just had what's his name? Clock King. I was going to call him Talk Ting. We have Talk Ting, right? Yeah, because I got between those. It was just in the Batman deal with Amanda Waller from that whole suit. So it is bigger, right? I think.
Not even that. We were in Gamora, which we're dealing with in this.
Yep. So I'm not saying it's great. I do say it's better than that Outsiders book.
I think it was my book of the week last time we talked about it.
Every week you get a lower score for the book. Like, you really picked it up this week because you gave, to spoil it, a 6.5 for the Batman.
Yeah.
We're raising the deal because last week it was disaster. But you can listen to that disaster on the Patreon. I
still think that the last issue of Suicide Squad Dream Team is better than this issue of Batman.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't remember what I gave it, so I don't want to really put my balls on the line, Eric, but I think I like that. I think I gave that a 7. I gave the Batman a 7.5, so I think I like the Batman a little more.
That's a ridiculous score.
Well, and I'll tell you right now.
It's not mine.
Well, I'll tell you right now, though, in the whole scheme of things, even having Batman and you saying a 7.5, that ain't good enough. DC has to pick it up, and Chip Zdarsky needs to pick it up. You need that Batman hitting. Speaking of which, Batman, because they had a weird way of counting the sales or something. Like Batman's like number 35 or something. Like it's insane. But we'll see. We'll see what's happening. But without a strong Batman, we don't have the strong DC, I say.
Not at all.
But those are the books. What do you think are the? What would they pick? Outsiders is going to be picked, right?
Outsiders, the Suicide Squad Dream Team.
Okay, that's a bullshit thing, but I'll go with it. I think you might be right. I'm saying like that. Talking of those two, but you did like I say the podcast will be a half hour. That jinx. Anytime you say that a book is starting to hit, or I think that the said writer gets said characters, shit goes wrong. Like, hey, look, it's really
not my
wrong.
fault they dropped the ball.
I know, balls again. Please. The idea, though, again, that's your jinx when you say that.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe you're right.
Because you get all excited, and I sit there. I'm not even saying the idea that I'm
it's
like
bullshit. I can't wait for it to fail.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you get so optimistic that then it makes me try to pull you down a little. I'm like, he's getting too close to the sun, and I think that Megan Fitzmartin finally gets the characters of Robin and the deal and whatever. I'm like, really? You don't think she just read the thing? What came recently that I was yelling? We haven't had a yelling session. I said, this is the same bullshit again that you were like, no. Oh, it was Blue Beetle. I think it was Blue Beetle last time. And I'm like, you are fucking insane. I think it was.
I think it was just the Mark Russell in Action Comics before me, the Superman House of Brainiac thing.
No, I know it was the Blue Beetle because you were talking like, they're tying in the old stuff and they're doing this.
They are tying in the old stuff. They're talking about things, Uncle Jarvis and stuff.
That's what it was.
Felt like something that felt important to the overall lore of the character that you don't usually get. Especially bringing in new characters like, Victoria Cord, who doesn't have like any kind of background in DC Comics. This is a new series for her, new character introduction since the movie came out. And I'm like, you're tying things in where you can see a villain motivation where she's not like Teddy because she's more like Uncle Jarvis.
Yeah, it's just, and when they did that,
his indestructible army.
And when they did that, I'm like, yeah, I think Eric's jinxing it.
I think he kept the shit out of it.
I was desperately trying to get that to make a joke. Yeah, it was Blue Beetle. So that actually has me excited to read it and see if you're right. And if you are right, maybe he's doing something good because I haven't seen it yet.
Well, it doesn't matter anymore because since then it's been announced it's canceled. Who gives a shit then?
But like we just said about Poison Ivy, if you're going to end by changing up or bringing something into the status quo and really solidifying it, then he did his job. So I'll go with that. But the guy hasn't done any job.
You say that we have not done anything in Blue Beetle like Legato mode.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It doesn't mean anything. Even creating the Horizon. Oh, it's an offshoot of the Reach, but they're the good guys, and they do other Beatles, but it doesn't matter. The idea that you're going to do anything for Victoria Cord, who was brought in here, if that's the most you can do, it's not enough.
Well, do you think that if you're a writer and you're terrible, right? Also, I want to mention that if I wrote it, I would have somebody say, is the Reach around? And everybody would giggle. But you end up where, do you think that it's bullshit, but you think it's an out? You end up having, and it's Josh Trillo, right? He's doing the deal. He hasn't done shit on shit. I mean, that book is so convoluted, including the graduation day. And now he's like, when it's canceled, it ends. And is he going to blame? Oh, I had so many ideas. Oh my God, I would have changed that. Oh, it would have been so great. Like, fuck you. You didn't do shit until now. Stop.
He's not Tim Sheridan.
Tim Sheridan was laying it on heavy recently about how, I don't sell a copy of any books, but I'm not going to work for you anymore. Oh, really? Oh my. Like, really, the idea that anybody's banging your door down, you jerk. What do you think of that, Eric? Take that.
I don't know. I thought mine was pretty harsh, too.
Yeah. I did feel like kind of harsh. But the guy was kind of a dick to us, so fuck him.
Yeah.
Fuck him. And also was mean to Gabe, so I like him again. You see, it's a back and forth. I can't get it's ping-ponging around. But yeah, I think you're right. Outsiders, Suicide Squad, Dream Team, and all those people are waiting with bated breath. By the way, Red Hood the Hill #4 comes up next week.
Sure it does.
Boy, so happy we don't deal with that.
I don't hang out at the Hill no more. I'm done.
That's true. I don't either. But that's it. And if you want to listen to...
I was mad that we had to go to the Hill for Batgirls.
Yeah, actually, when that happened, we were like, isn't that fun? When we had to do the end of the New 52 with that... you hated it so much. When I went back and read your reviews,
here's a continuation of a one-shot from 20 years ago. I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard.
You
wrote
the
that
worst review
issue.
Like the book owed you money, Eric. That's what the kids say.
It did owe me money.
Yeah, the $3.99 that you didn't pay for it. It still owed you money. We got review copies and I wanted my money back. Oh, that sucked. Why would you go back to a failed thing? I don't get it. I wonder that every time Tanya comes back from like the Y. Why would you keep coming back to this failed thing? But here we go, and here we are going out. So everybody go and check us out.
Wait, do you mean you?
No, I meant she kept coming back to me. I was actually
that's what I thought you meant.
Yeah, I wasn't. It may have seemed like I was saying that being at the gym didn't mean much. That wasn't what I meant.
That's how I initially took it. I was upset, but now you meant you, so I'm okay.
She goes more than me, and I get mad every time.
That means she just goes.
Well, it is true because she swims. Because she used to be on the swim team, so she's a fucking fancy swimmer. But she ends up where she goes at 5, and there are at least 4 people that are listening right now that will tell you that's when we record. It's like every day of the week at 5. I have somebody else I record with, and I told her like I can't go at that. She always decides to go then. I'm like, well,
makes sense.
You can't do
I get it.
We got Walking Dead, we got the indie thing, we got a bunch of Year One. Zach,
she's finding out that she don't have to drag your fucking dumpy ass around.
It is dumpy ass. You're a jerk. I did go a couple times. Went back on that bike that keeps your stats. I went there a lot, very gray. I ended up. It's like that Grateful Dead song. No, it's not because that's Touch of Gray. You're just full out gray. I ended up where I went back to the Y, and they have that bike where you put your stats and stuff like that. And I put in the stats and like, thank God you're back, fatty. I'm like, this bike is a piece of shit. Now I ended up going and I couldn't remember my login. I was so upset, so I made a new one for that time. I went twice so far in the last week. It was okay. Got a little tired. It's this bike, and I'm like, when they do it, it comes up and it's really neat. You like because you kind of steer and you change the gears. It's like you're on a real bike thing, and you're going. Yeah. And I have like bike shorts on, like I'm a pretentious prick. I don't, but I'm there.
Do you tell the machine that you don't eat meat to try to get brownie points?
Yeah, I did. It's like, what would you like? I'm like, what I really wouldn't like is meat because I don't eat it. Like, it's like, what an asshole. Who asked you? So I end up where I go and it gives you options. But the problem is it doesn't tell you like if something's going to have a lot of hills. I don't need the hills right now. Speaking of Red Hood.
Comics are outside.
I hit this one. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, this is supposed to be easy. I was struggling. I'm like, I am getting old. I gotta get in shape. I mean, now I'm at the point where I'm really thinking I have to get in shape so I don't die. That's the worst. Like before I'd be like, hey, I want some chicks. I want to look good. I'm going to play a sport. Now I'm like, I need to live.
No, that's where we are right now.
Yeah, we are. It sucks. It sucks when I realize that. And also, how
all those teens or 20s aspirations? No, we don't care about that shit no more.
No. And so, like, when I would sit there, I'm like, I would never think of walking as an exercise. I'm like, I might go for a walk. And then I'm like, no, I'm just walking around in my mind or something.
That's what I'm so angry about because I used to love doing cardio and stuff. I can't even go for walks anymore for how bad my feet are fucked up.
Yeah, my feet are fucked up too. We got to talk about that later. Me and you footman too? Is that what you're saying? Oh, I thought that's what you meant when you said fucked up. But we're done, Eric. Go over to the Patreon, patreon.com/weirdscience, where you can get all the jokes there. I mean, me and you. We're a bunch of jokes. But all that, I think that pretty cool stuff over there. There's a lot of shows. As I said, I record with a lot of people. Me and Eric have our Patreon Spotlight. We have a exclusive indie show that I do with Zach and a lot of reading clubs and things of that sort. So go check it out. And if you do right now, you can go and get a 7-day free trial. And then you can see if I'm telling the truth or if I'm lying out my ass. But I'm not. So check it out. But with all that, Eric, wait a minute. I have to get rid of. Oh God, this is what was your book of the week again?
Oh my God, how are you doing this?
Because I put that tiki thing for that one joke and didn't realize.
You took out the one thing you needed for your tiki
I didn't realize.
Joke.
Now when I went to hit it, I'm about to hit the tiki thing for the deal. Was that song like about peeing your pants? Oh no, it was about a fart, Eric. Okay, well, what was you like that Batman Disney? Is that what you like?
This is taking forever.
Well, now it has to load up. You think that was bad? What do we say at the end of the show, Eric?
Everybody have a great week. Keep it weird.
Weird.
And we'll see you in 7.
See you in 7.